Chapter 74. After dealing with Jiang Daodu, Jiang Xi felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. The feeling just now was as if he had come face to face with the two-headed devil wolf. However, the pressure in his heart was completely released after chatting with Jiang Daodu. His whole body was relaxed without any pressure. Standing on the roof of the tall building, he looked at Ruin 052. For a moment, Jiang Xi was filled with ambition. From today onwards, he was considered a high-level warrior in the human martial arts world. A top-notch C-class warrior. Among the warriors that Jiang Xi knew, for example, the deputy head of the Pak Sun Province branch of Genten Budokan, and the captain of the Pak Sun Province's first law enforcement team, Liu Shan, was a warrior of this level. Liu Shan was also one of the top 10 warriors in the entire Pak Sun Province's martial arts world. In other words, Jiang Xi's actual combat power was also one of the top 10 in Pak Sun Province. Of course, a few months ago, when Liu Shan killed Xiao Wenxiang of the Qiao clan biological group, it was suspected that he had broken through to B-class. If this news was true, Jiang Xi knew that he was definitely not a match for Liu Shan. He had the combat power of a top-notch C-class warrior mainly because of two high-level martial arts techniques, the 9 elemental swordsmanship and the wind shadow steps, which had already reached the microscopic realm. His current strength level was only E-class, which was still a distance away from D-class warriors. High-level martial arts techniques are very rare and difficult to cultivate. Warriors below C-class rarely have the chance to come into contact with high-level martial arts techniques. Even if they have the chance, they won't choose it. In fact, most martial artists use beginner and intermediate martial arts techniques. There are even many F-class martial artists who use martial arts techniques such as basic fist techniques. For example, the captain, Wang Daolong, a veteran D-class warrior, uses intermediate martial arts techniques. He can contend with C-class monsters by relying on the fact that he is close to the Unity realm. I was able to obtain the 9 elemental swordsmanship and wind shadow steps because of the terms of the contract given by Genten Budokan. Coupled with the fact that I have the experience panel, I'm not afraid of the difficulty of training. Thinking of this, Jiang Xi opened the experience panel again and checked it. Level, Flesh Tempering Grade E, 572165500, Cultivation Method, 9 Elements Heart Method. Martial Skill, 9 Elemental Swordsmanship, 240180000, Wind Shadow Steps, Refinement 148110000, Power Output, 3, 9 Experience, 2766. I still need 780 EXP to reach D rank. Right now, my actual combat power is at the peak of C rank. I wonder if my actual combat power will break through to B rank when I reach D rank? Next, during this period of time when I'm training alone, I'll work hard and see if I can achieve my goal. Jiang Xi was looking forward to it. According to the information, the strongest monster in Ruin 052 was a Class B, and there were no Class A monsters. The truly dangerous place was Laozhan Lake, which was about 30 kilometers away from Ruin 052. Laozhan Lake was one of the 5 major freshwater lakes in Xia before the Spirit Qi revival. After the Spirit Qi revival, the aquatic creatures living in it underwent a large-scale evolution. The entire Laozhan Lake became extremely dangerous, and it was rumored that there were Class A monsters living there. Of course, Jiang Xi wouldn't be so stupid as to run there. It was enough for him to train in Ruin 052. With his current strength, he was like a fish in water here. At noon, Jiang Xi checked his injuries again. They were basically healed. Jiang Xi did not waste any time. Standing on the roof of the building, he picked up the binoculars and started searching. 3 kilometers to the northwest, there's a Class D sword-horn mountain goat. There are more than 30 Class E and F sword-horn mountain goats around it. My first target will be them. With that, Riverward leaped up from the rooftop and jumped onto the tall building opposite him. He quickly ran towards the sword-horn goat. While running, he deliberately controlled his speed and only used half of it. It was about 200 meters per second, the speed of a normal Class C warrior. This was enough to deal with the Class D Swordhorn Mountain Goat. More than 10 seconds later, Jiang Xi was like a gust of wind. He appeared beside the Swordhorn Mountain Goat from the roof of a building on the side of the street. Roar! A Class D Swordhorn Mountain Goat that was nearly 3 meters tall. It let out a thunderous roar. It shook its head, and its horns that were as long as swords buzzed. It charged toward Jiang Xi at an extremely fast speed. Behind it were more than 30 Class E and F Swordhorn Mountain Goats. They were much smaller, and the momentum they made when they charged over was also very shocking. The Swordhorn Mountain Goat is a delicious food. To be able to survive in Ruin 052 surrounded by monsters until now, it's definitely not simple. I can't be careless. Jiang Xi was very calm. Facing the menacing D-grade Swordhorn Goat, he lightly slid his feet and used wind shadow steps. In an instant, his figure became blurry and unfathomable. Whoosh! The slaughtering shadow sword drew a sword flower. The body of the sword flickered under the sunlight, and suddenly the sword pierced out. It was as fast as lightning. Quick sword. His power erupted in an instant. Voila! Following Jiang Xi's footsteps, the blade of his sword landed on the D-grade Swordhorn Goat's abdomen, slicing open a large wound and causing its internal organs to spill out. Bah! The Swordhorn Goat let out a sorrowful cry. It rushed forward a few dozen meters and prostrated itself on the ground. Jiang Xi was very decisive. With a light step, he lifted his sword and ended its life. You have killed a rank D Swordhorn Goat, EXP plus 50. Only then did the herd of goats reach him. A group of E-class and F-class monsters were not worth mentioning. Jiang Xi was like a butterfly flitting through flowers. Amidst the roaring beasts, he agilely moved and attacked with his sword. You have killed a rank E Swordhorn Goat, EXP plus 30. You have killed a rank F Swordhorn Goat, EXP plus 10. In less than a minute, more than 30 goats had all fallen to the ground. More than 400 EXP gained. Immediately, Jiang Xi quickly chopped off the horns of the rank D Swordhorn Goat. Then, he took 2 large goat legs for lunch and left without looking back. In less than 2 minutes, a group of bloodthirsty mastiffs, led by a rank C red flaming hound, rushed over. They had been eyeing the goats for a long time, but they did not have a chance. Now, their chance had come. The group of bloodthirsty mastiffs rushed to the goats' carcasses and ate them. In the distance, on top of a tall building, Jiang Xi watched all this quietly. He had the ability to deal with the rank C red flaming hounds below, but he did not go down to hunt them. It's better to be safe. If someone sees me while I'm hunting, I'll be in trouble. It had only been half a day since the Liberal Alliance issued the bounty, and it was still very popular. Once he exposed his strength as a rank C martial artist, he would definitely be the focus of attention. With a cautious attitude, Jiang Xi only hunted those rank D monsters for the rest of the hunt. His EXP increased steadily. At night, Jiang Xi ate monster meat to replenish his body's energy. Then, he used the interface to increase his level and martial arts EXP. It was worth mentioning that after eating the unripe dragon spirit fruit, as his martial arts level had not yet broken through, although his body and spiritual consciousness had been strengthened to a certain extent, the maximum amount of EXP he could receive each time he used the interface to increase his EXP was still 50 EXP. The reason why I leveled up so quickly before was because I had a large amount of spiritual chi in my body to support me. It could replenish the consumption caused by the rapid leveling up. And the increase of my spiritual chi has not broken through the limit. I can only break through this limit when I reach rank D. Chapter 75. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. The moon rose and the sun set. The sky gradually darkened. Ruin 052, on a half-collapsed viaduct. Riverward was like a bolt of lightning, meeting a D-class lightning cat demon head-on. The slaughtering shadow sword swept across and cut it in half. You killed a Class D lightning cat demon. Experience plus 50. His movements were as smooth as flowing water. He was extremely skilled. After harvesting the monster materials, Jiang Xi jumped down from the viaduct and ended the day's hunt. Ruin 052, a commercial center. The words heart could be vaguely seen on the dilapidated building. This was where Jiang Xi rested for the past few days. He was very familiar with this place, as he had been here many times in his previous life. In a hidden kitchen of a restaurant, Jiang Xi grilled blood tusk wild boar meat and began his training for the day. Jiang Xi wiped his saliva as he smelled the appetizing aroma of the grilled meat. I can break through to Class D today! Experience increased by 50 points. Jiang Xi said in his heart. Very quickly, a familiar feeling of hunger appeared in his stomach. Riverwood grabbed a huge pig leg and started to chew on it. The pork leg came from a Class D blood tusk wild boar. The meat was firm and chewy. Even without any seasoning, it was enough to make one salivate. After eating the entire pork leg, Jiang Xi patted his stomach in satisfaction. At the same time, his body finally achieved a critical breakthrough. His flesh and blood trembled slightly. During the day, when he was hunting monsters, the small wound on his body disappeared in the blink of an eye. Flesh Tempering Realm of Martial Artist 6 Realms, Mastery. From Class E to Class D, Mastery of Flesh Tempering Realm, to Bone Tempering Realm, bones will become harder and harder. Bones will be like iron, and in the end, I will not be afraid of small firearms. Jiang Xi's eyes shone as he clenched his fist. Buzz! His muscles trembled as a powerful force shook the air. Whoosh whoosh! Jiang Xi stood up again and moved a few steps in this small space. His entire body was like a phantom, and his speed and agility had obviously increased. Jiang Xi shook his head. I'm much stronger than before, close to 2 times the speed of sound. However, I still feel that my actual combat strength is still a little short of Class B. Half a month ago, he had briefly seen the battle between the A-rank martial artist named Ta Shi and the 3 B-rank Silvermoon demonic wolves. The strength of a Class B was even stronger than the strength and speed he was displaying now. He opened the experience panel. Level, Bonehone Level D, 111000, Cultivation Method, 9 Elements Heart Method Martial Skill, 9 Elemental Swordsmanship, 318180000, Wind Shadow Steps, 226110000, Power Output, 4, 19 Experience, 24060. I can't be too greedy. It's only been half a month, and my strength has increased again. I should be invincible in the C class. I have 24,060 experience points remaining. It's enough for me to use for a long time. It's time to go home. Yes, let's go home. Counting the days, it had already been a month since he came out. Now Jiang Daoda would call him every day. She was getting more and more resentful. If he did not go home, she would probably go to heaven. New Moon Year 92, November 16th, dusk. At the entrance of Tongtian District, Zhenten Budokan, Paksun Province. A group of people was waiting there. Jiang Daoda stood at the front, tiptoeing and stretching her head to look at the intersection. She looked anxious. Behind her were Jiang Xing and Wang Dalong from the Mad Dragon Squad. Zhou Yan was also there. Why aren't they here yet? Jiang Daoda said to herself. Why aren't they here yet? Why aren't they here yet? No one disturbed the magic cycle. Jiang Xing and Zhou Yang looked at each other and smiled. Obviously, they had seen Jiang Daoda's style. Wang Dalong, Lu Hao, and Tian Chifeng remained silent. No one knew what they were thinking. After a while, a black MPV turned from the intersection. After the car stopped, Jiang Xi walked out of the car with a huge bag on his back. His combat uniform was in tatters and no longer resembled its original appearance. However, from afar, he looked much more energetic. His temperament was more solid. Uncle Jiang, Captain, Brother Yang, Brother Hao, Brother Feng. Jiang Xi went up and greeted everyone with a smile. Good, good. It's good that you're back. Jiang Xing smiled with relief. He was more and more satisfied with Jiang Xi now. After all, he was Jiang Xi's martial arts guide and teacher. The more outstanding Jiang Xi was, the more proud he was. The Mad Dragon squad also smiled and chatted with Jiang Xi. They were very enthusiastic. However, Wang Dalong, Lu Hao, and Tian Chifeng also secretly observed Jiang Xi's performance. They found that Jiang Xi was normal. The three of them looked at each other and breathed a sigh of relief. The last trace of doubt in their hearts dissipated. In their opinion, Jiang Xi was just a young man who had just reached adulthood. If Jiang Xi was really Feng Xiaoqing's murderer, no matter how strong he was, it was impossible for him to remain indifferent under the pressure of a huge bounty. Jiang Xi's current behavior was so natural. It could only mean that the murderer was not Jiang Xi. After greeting Jiang Xing and the others, Jiang Xi smiled and walked to Jiang Daodu. The little girl was pouting and her head was turned to the side. "Hey, I'm back." "Humph, you still know to come back? Let's go home." After saying that, Jiang Daodu dragged Jiang Xi and turned to walk home. "See you tomorrow." Jiang Xi waved goodbye to Jiang Xing and the others. Taotian District, Villa 92. After returning home, he saw a familiar scene. A table full of delicious dishes and a warm and comfortable environment. Jiang Xi's tense muscles instantly relaxed. The feeling of home. "Take a bath first, then eat," Jiang Daodu ordered, almost putting her hands on her waist. Without her saying, Jiang Xi went to take a bath first. Because he had not taken a bath for a whole half a month. If he did not count the time when he was running for his life at the bottom of Xianan River, it would be a whole month. After washing up, he felt refreshed. Then, the two of them tacitly sat together and ate like they used to in the slums and apricot garden in the huge living room. The two of them ate and played as if nothing could affect them. "Jiang Daodu, I have an important question." Jiang Daodu was a little nervous. "Did you relax when I was not at home? How's your studies? How much did your martial arts training improve? What kind of important question is this? Strictly speaking, I'm your guardian. Of course, I have to care about these important questions." "Ha! How much?" "First in the learning cohort, first in the martial arts cohort." "Are you satisfied now? Brother? Dad? What guardian? Which one do you think is appropriate?" Jiang Daodu sneered. Riverward almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. This little girl had really ascended to heaven. "I have another question. That vixen with the surname Han came to our house several times to look for you. What's your relationship with her? Why is she so shameless?" Jiang Daodu suddenly asked. "I'm innocent. I don't know her at all." "Ha! I don't believe you." Chapter 76. For the entire day, the siblings were stuck on the issue of Han Ningxue. In the end, Jiang Xi promised to watch a horror movie with Jiang Dudu for a night. Therefore, when he went out the next day, Jiang Xi went out with 2 dark circles under his eyes. After seeing Wang Dalong and the others, everyone was very surprised. "Jiang Xi, what did you do? Such big dark circles." Lu Hao was the first to ask. The three of them were in high spirits. "Young man, you still have to pay attention to restraint. Although you're a martial artist and have a good body, no matter how strong your body is, there's still a limit," Wang Dalong said earnestly. Jiang Xi smiled bitterly and shook his head. With his current physical fitness, it was also a kind of ability to have dark circles under his eyes. It couldn't be helped. Just like what Jiang Dudu said, Jiang Xi was the most afraid of ghosts. However, he couldn't say this out loud. It was embarrassing. They arrived at one of the VIP rooms in the office center of Genten Budokan Building 1. The Mad Dragon squad met the old man, Li Qing, who collected monster materials last time. "Old Li, you're young again." Wang Dalong was in a good mood. Because they had a great harvest this time. Not only did they earn a lot of money, but even their sworn enemy, the Bloodthirst Squad, was gone. They came back in advance. After knowing that Wan Qing and Feng Xiaoqing were killed together, they secretly checked the whereabouts of the other members of the Bloodthirst Squad. In the end, the information they received was that the Bloodthirst Squad was most likely wiped out. "I'm old. No matter how young I am, I can't compare to you real young people. Li Qing laughed. Being teased by Wang Dalong like this, he was not angry. He knew that the Mad Dragon squad must have a great harvest this time. Therefore, he smiled and said, "If there's any good stuff, don't hide it. Take it out and let us have a look." Wang Dalong, Jiang Xi, and the others looked at each other and smiled. They took the backpacks full of monster materials to the table for appraisal. This time, there were not many things, but they were all good stuff. Most of them were D-grade monster materials, and a small portion were E-grade monster materials. The few of them had already calculated the price. These monster materials were worth about 650 million. Li Qing didn't push down the price like last time because the Berserk Dragon squad was no longer the same as before. They were selling good stuff. In the end, the purchase price given was about the same as what everyone had in mind. 640 million. Old Li, at least you know what's good for you. So you're very lucky to be able to see this big guy. It's even bigger than last time. Wang Dalong laughed. Li Qing's eyes lit up. Wang Dalong opened his backpack as if he was presenting a treasure. He took out a complete piece of gold-back blue wolf skin and laid it on the appraisal table in front of him. The entire back of the skin was golden in color, while the rest of the skin was pale green. Even though it was just a piece of skin, it still exuded an intimidating aura. After the test results came out. His C-Class Gold-Back Blue Wolf. Li Qing sucked in a breath of cold air, completely stunned. It was even more valuable than the shadow-flying leopard skin from last time. Old Li, I'll set the price this time. Let's not talk about anything else. 800 million. If you can do it, then do it. If you can't, then we'll do the same as last time. Wang Dalong smiled faintly and said in a firm tone. Hearing this, Riverwood gave up on the idea of standing out to bargain. C-Class Gold-Back Blue Wolf skin was about the same price. Li Qing was very helpless. He was firmly controlled by Wang Dalong. In the end, the Mad Dragon squad earned a total of 144 billion new moon coins. Jiang Xi and Wang Dalong each got 30%, so each of them got 432 million. Lu Hao and Tian Chunfeng each got 20%, so each of them got 288 million. After calculating, other than Jiang Xi, the three of them had only stayed in the wilderness for half a month. To earn so much in half a month, it could be said to be a huge harvest. Especially Lu Hao and Tian Chunfeng. Their harvest this time was equivalent to the sum of their previous 10 years' income. It might even be more. The four of them were grinning from ear to ear. When Li Qing finished paying the bill and was about to leave, Jiang Xi stopped him. Uncle Li, don't be in a hurry. There's still something else. Oh? Li Qing turned around, his face full of surprise. Under normal circumstances, the team leader was in charge of trading monster materials in a warrior squad. It was rare to see the team members speak. Jiang Xi took out his backpack and said, "These are the monster materials I hunted when I was training alone." Whoosh! The specially processed monster materials were all poured out and soon filled the entire appraisal table. Silence. Not only Li Qing, but even Wang Dalong and the others were stunned. Wang Dalong and the others knew that Jiang Xi must have collected monster materials when he was training alone. They did not expect that there would be so many, and they were all D-class monsters. There was not a single E-class or F-class monster. Li Qing's eyes widened as he appraised the monster materials. D-class Red Flaming Dog, D-class Ironhide Bull, D-class Blue Fire Wolf. A few minutes later, the appraisal was completed. A total of 214 D-class monster materials, worth a total of 760 million new moon coins. After Li Qing finished speaking, he took a few deep breaths to calm down. Even though he dealt with monster materials every day, he had never seen someone like Jiang Xi. All the monster materials came from D-class monsters. Moreover, these D-class monsters were extremely difficult to hunt. Ordinary D-class warriors might not even be able to deal with them one-on-one. Usually, only small teams of D-class warriors would hunt these monsters. Little Jiang, did you hunt all these alone? Li Qing's tone was not very sure, so he confirmed it again. Wang Dalong and the others also looked at Jiang Xi. They had also recovered from their shock. Jiang Xi smiled lightly with an indifferent expression. Yes, I killed all of them. It took me a lot of effort. Wang Dalong, Li Qing, and the others felt that this was the most pretentious thing they had ever heard. However, Jiang Xi did not feel that way. These words were already very modest. That was because he had spent a long time picking them out. They were all valuable monster materials. In the past half a month, he had hunted too many monster materials and could not bring them all with him. More than half of them were left in the wilderness. This is the strength of a top D-class warrior. Li Qing suppressed his shock and looked at Jiang Xi. However, Wang Dalong asked in a low voice, Jiang Xi, have you decided? Last time at Ruin 0724, Jiang Xi had warned him not to reveal his actual combat strength to the outside world. Jiang Xi's expression was calm. It's not a good idea to keep hiding it. In the past, he wanted to live a few more days in peace and develop in a low-profile manner. However, the situation was different now. Previously, during the Martial Science College entrance examination, he was the first person in history to score full marks, shocking everyone. This information was definitely something that Feng Xian would be able to find out. If he deliberately hid his strength, he might be suspected. It was better to reveal part of his strength openly. As the first person in history to score full marks in martial arts, it was normal for his actual combat strength to reach D-class in just half a year. Moreover, the actual combat strength of a D-class warrior was still a far cry from the top C-class warrior that Feng Xian had offered a bounty on. This way, he could reduce the possibility of being suspected. Advance as a form of retreat. Jianghai Prefecture, Mingxin Mountain. There was an additional tomb in the forest behind the mountain. Feng Xian stood with his hands behind his back, quietly looking at the tombstone in front of him. He stood there for an entire day. Night fell. A B-class warrior dressed in black, the leader of the escort team, Old Yuan, passed through the forest at lightning speed and arrived in front of Feng Xian. Sir. Old Yuan bowed. How is it? Feng Xian was expressionless. It can be confirmed that the 7 C-class warriors are not suspicious. Feng Xian fell silent. The most suspicious few had been eliminated, and it would be difficult to find the rest. This was because when Feng Xiaoqing died, there were only D-class and E-class warriors within a 100-kilometer radius. Moreover, there were many of them, more than 1,000 of them. Investigate the rest. If there are any talented warriors among them, focus on them. Feng Xian stared at Feng Xiaoqing's tomb, his gaze cold. Chapter 77. At noon, in order to celebrate the success of this trip to the wilderness, the Mad Dragon squad organized a meal. Cheers! In an elegant private room of a restaurant, the 4 of them raised their glasses at the same time. After the messy cups and plates, everyone quieted down and discussed the next step of the plan. Jiang Xi, there's still more than a month until the new year. I want to wait until the new year is over before going to the wilderness. That way, everyone can have a peaceful new year. Wang Dalong asked Jiang Xi for his opinion. After all, the Mad Dragon squad was different from before. Jiang Xi was the strongest person in the squad. I have no objections. After a busy year, it's a good time to relax. Jiang Xi smiled. His philosophy was to have a balance between tension and relaxation. If his mind was always tense, it would affect the efficiency of his training. More importantly, there was still 1.5 months until the new year. After the new year, he could not leave Jiangdudu alone. Jiang Xi had long realized that due to the uniqueness of the 2 moons, the new moon era's calendar was the same as the oldest Xia kingdom's lunar calendar. For example, the new moon era's January 1st was equivalent to the old spring festival. In the afternoon, he returned to his home in Tongtian district. Jiangdudu had not finished school yet. Only Jiang Xi was at home. However, Jiang Xi was not idle. He opened Zhenten Budokan's internal website and entered the Xiantian shopping center to update his battle preparations. The last time he bought equipment, other than the C-grade Killer Shadow Sword, was still intact. The other combat uniforms and backpacks had long become tattered. He probably could not exchange them for new ones. Although the Killer Shadow Sword looks intact, there are many small wounds on the blade. It's also badly damaged. I'm afraid it won't last long. There aren't many martial artists like me who spend as much equipment as I do. Jiang Xi laughed at himself. Many martial artists only updated their combat equipment after a few years. Including this time, he had updated 3 times in half a year. In the end, Jiang Xi changed into a new C-grade combat uniform. He did not choose the B-grade one. Firstly, it was too expensive. Secondly, he was afraid of being discovered and arousing suspicion. After all, he had just revealed that his actual combat strength was D-grade. It would be too exaggerated to use B-grade combat equipment. His account balance was more than 1.2 billion. After purchasing the equipment, he still had 800 million left. I wonder how much are the Fei potions in the Xiantian's shopping center? Jiang Xi's heart stirred. He had tasted the sweetness of the Dragon Mark spiritual fruit's rapid improvement, but it was too dangerous. Fei potions were made using a special method to dilute Feis, so the amount of spirit qi contained was much lesser. If he used Fei potions to provide the spirit qi consumed by the panel, he would be able to rapidly increase his strength like before. Although it wasn't that big, it was definitely faster than him improving bit by bit every day. The sooner I reach grade A, the sooner I'll be able to resolve the crisis brought about by the bounty. As Jiang Xi pondered, he searched for Fei potions in the Xiantian's shopping center. 3D virtual light flickered, and a string of product information appeared. E-grade Fei potion, price 28 million new moon dollars, 1,024 sets in stock. D-grade Fei medicine, 280 million new moon dollars, 183 sets in stock. C-grade Fei medicine, price 8 billion new moon dollars, 37 sets in stock. B-grade Fei medicine, price 8 billion new moon dollars, 5 sets in stock. A-grade Fei medicine, price 8 billion new moon dollars, 1 set in stock. Jiang Xi went silent. Who set the price? It's so casual. He was speechless. However, the price was definitely high. For example, D-grade Fei potions were suitable for E-grade martial artists, and they could advance to D-grade after consumption. However, with the earning speed of E-grade martial artists, even if they didn't eat, drink, or spend money, they would still need 10 years to save enough money. Before Jiang Xi joined the Berserk Dragon team, E-grade martial artists like Lu Hao would only earn 20 million a year. Of course, this price was slightly lower than the market price. B-grade Fei potions cost 30 billion in the market, but it was 8 billion here. I have the experience panel, and the safest choice is to use B-grade Fei potions. There won't be any danger, and it can also satisfy the speed of my strength improvement. It's a pity that I lack so much money. I'm so poor. Jiang Xi shook his head helplessly. He still lacked 28 billion. With his current earning speed in the wilderness, he would need at least 1 year to earn that much money. It was too slow. I'm now D-grade, and my body's endurance has increased further. Using the panel, I can gain 100 experience points for each level, and double the amount for martial arts. The 9 elemental sword art and wind shadow steps can add up to a total of 200 experience points. After some calculations, using the experience panel, he would be able to increase his level again and reach C-grade in at most 4 months. At that time, no matter how he did it, his actual combat strength would still reach B-grade. Therefore, Jiang Xi temporarily gave up on using the Fei potions to increase his strength. In the following days, Jiang Xi also had a rare chance to relax. Of course, this kind of relaxation was relative. He didn't need to be as tense as when he was in the wilderness. Now, he would wake up every morning to cultivate the 9 Elemental Heart Sutra. He would practice his swordsmanship in the afternoon, and his footwork in the afternoon. At night, he would bring Jiang Daodu along to play around in Pak Sun Province. It was a rare happy day, and Jiang Xi also enjoyed this rhythm of life. During this period, the two of them also went to Luming District's Sunshine Palace district to visit old Yang's family. Old Jiang was also very happy to see the siblings. Their family's life had changed because of Jiang Xi. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Jiang Xi knew that this rhythm of life was about to disappear. Because Jiang Wei was on vacation and had to return from Shuntian Prefecture. Sour, I'm really sour. It's as if I ate a ton of lemons. I regret letting you go. I want to cry but have no tears. After receiving Jiang Wei at the Pak Sun Province airport, Jiang Wei was like pouring beans and talking non-stop. Although he was studying at Suncheon Budo Academy, he also paid attention to the news at home and knew that Jiang Xi's strength had increased especially in the past month. The news that Jiang Xi's actual combat strength had reached D grade had already spread in Genten Budokan, Pak Sun Province. You're not bad either. You're almost at E grade, Jiang Xi said with a smile. He could see that Jiang Wei's aura had already reached the limit of F grade. Sigh. Jiang Wei shook his head. Ha. Jiang Xi and Jiang Xing laughed. Dinner was eaten at Jiang Wei's house. Jiang Wei's parents were very enthusiastic, and laughter could be heard throughout the meal. Everyone was listening to Jiang Wei talk about his life at Suncheon Budo Academy. I regret it. If I had known earlier, I would have gone to the wilderness with Jiang Xi to train after becoming a martial artist. In the College of Martial Arts, there are only a few captive monsters. There's no challenge at all. Jiang Wei kept complaining. Jiang Xi only smiled lightly. He could see that Jiang Wei was already working very hard. He was also a famous genius in Suncheon Budo Academy. His status was similar to Han Ningxue's in Hokuzen Budo Academy. Oh right, have you heard anything about Qiao Wei? Jiang Wei asked. Qiao Wei? Jiang Xi was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. This person seemed to be the first villain that he remembered. In the past, he was known as Beishan No. 1 martial arts genius. After Qiao Wei's father, Qiao Wanxiang, was killed by Lu Shan with a single slash, Qiao's biological group collapsed. Qiao Wei left Pak Sun Province. He's also an influential figure in Shushan College of Martial Arts. In October this year, Qiao Wei also participated in the martial arts competition held by the 4 major College of Martial Arts in Xia. His strength is not bad, close to E grade. In the end, he got 4th place. Of course, not as high as me. I got 3rd place. Jiang Wei bragged. Amazing! Jiang Xi gave him a thumbs up. Qiao Wei? He had long forgotten. In the past, he was indeed very angry when they clashed. But now half a year had passed. There was a huge gap between their statuses. If he went to find trouble with Qiao Wei, it would be degrading. The premise was that the other party did not actively seek death. Chapter 78. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of New Moon Year 92. It was the new year. Jiang Xi and Jiang Duda finally had a good new year. They used to live in Apricot Garden, which was known as the slum of Luming District. Every new year, the two of them could not bear to eat and wear. Their lives were very tight. Now, it was different. Jiang Xi had become a martial artist. Their lives had undergone earth-shattering changes. Visiting friends and having fun became the main activities of the two of them during this period. Of course, Jiang Xi did not completely relax. He persisted in cultivating every day, and his strength steadily increased. New Moon Year 93, January 2nd, early morning, just after the New Year. Jiang Xi was cultivating on the balcony on the 3rd floor of the villa. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. From afar, he saw a familiar figure appear in Tongtian District. Han Ningxue? She still looked clean and neat in her clothes. The bell bracelet on her right wrist rang clearly. Upon closer inspection, one would notice that she was more gentle and beautiful than before. Jiang Xi frowned slightly. His footsteps were light, and his figure disappeared from the balcony. At this moment, Jiang Dudu was preparing to go out and train in Genten Budokan. Jiang Xi suddenly appeared in front of her. Jiang Duda's face was full of confusion. She knew that Jiang Xi should be cultivating on the balcony at this time every day. Jiang Xi hesitated for a moment, then smiled and said, "If a guest comes later, just say that I'm not here." "Okay." Jiang Duda tilted her head and looked at the door. She agreed readily. Jiang Xi's figure drifted and directly went into the underground cultivation room. Jiang Duda was deep in thought. Knock, knock, knock. Someone knocked on the door. Jiang Duda got up and went to open the door. Then, her face instantly turned gloomy. She saw Han Ningxue standing in front of the door. "Hello, Daodu. We meet again. Is your brother home?" Han Ningxue smiled. "My brother said that he's not home." Jiang Duda maintained her politeness. There was something wrong with those words. Although Jiang Xi had moved to the underground training room, his hearing was very good. When he heard Jiang Duda's words, he almost spat out his saliva. "Jiang Xi, I saw you just now. Come out quickly. Didn't I just ask you to treat me to a meal? I won't eat you." Han Ningxue bypassed Jiang Duda and shouted at the door. The veins on Jiang Duda's forehead bulged. If it wasn't for the fact that she couldn't beat this hateful vixen, she would have already punched her. In the underground training room, Jiang Xi sighed softly. He knew that he could not avoid it. Sigh, it's so hard to be a man. Then, Jiang Xi smiled and appeared in front of the two people who were confronting each other. "Oh, it's Han Ningxue. Long time no see." Jiang Xi's expression was very exaggerated. Han Ningxue did not care. She was still smiling and said, "Jiang Xi, you have to keep your word. I remember that you still owe me a meal. It's time to fulfill your promise, right?" Jiang Xi only felt a chill coming from the side. It was obvious that it was from Jiang Dudu. However, after thinking about it, Jiang Xi still smiled and said, "Okay, let's go now." Han Ningxue smiled like a flower and glanced at Jiang Dudu gently. Then, the two turned and left. Looking at the backs of the two people leaving, Jiang Dudu gritted her teeth and clenched her fists tightly. After a while, she snorted and went to Genten Budokan. On this day, the equipment in the training center on the third floor of Genten Budokan's building was destroyed by her. On the other side, Jiang Xi and Han Ningxue came to a restaurant located in a bustling commercial center in Pak Sun Province. The restaurant's environment was very good. It was fresh and elegant. There were many customers coming and going, but no one spoke loudly so as not to disturb others. Han Ningxue was very satisfied, relaxed, and happy. The two sat down in a private room and ordered a few dishes. "Jiang Xi, you are very special. Since I was young, you are the first boy that I am curious about and can't figure out." Han Ningxue was very direct. "Maybe it's because you haven't seen much." Jiang Xi buried his head in the food. The price here was very expensive. He was a little distressed now. He went to the wrong place. There was no other reason to treat Han Ningxue to a meal. He just wanted to make things clear. "That's true. Since I was young, there were very few boys who dared to approach me. No one was like you, speaking so directly." Han Ningxue chuckled. "I'm very poor." Jiang Xi suddenly raised his head. "It's okay. I have money." Han Ningxue's smile did not change. "I have a younger sister. I don't mind." "No, what I mean is, I only have eyes for my sister. I want to take care of her." "You like your sister?" "It has nothing to do with that. We depend on each other. We can't be separated in the future." Hearing this, Han Ningxue was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I understand. But I won't give up." Jiang Xi smiled helplessly. This girl was a little stubborn and one-track minded. This restaurant was very famous in Pak Sun Province. Many people of high status often came here to spend money. At this time, two young men walked into the restaurant. One of them had a robust appearance, while the other had a handsome appearance. After seeing them, the lobby manager's eyes lit up. He quickly walked up to them. Young Master Han is here. Sorry for not coming out to greet you." The robust young man was Han Lei. He nodded slightly and said to the lobby manager, Arrange a quiet place for us. The lobby manager quickly led the two of them to a private room in the restaurant. Brother Lei, your Pak-Sun province is not bad. It's rare to see such an environment in Shentian. The handsome young man smiled. His name was Qin Feng, from Shentian Prefecture. He had known Han Lei since they were young. You can't compare it like that. After all, there are many strong people in Shentian. We have to be careful. Han Lei smiled. Soon, the two of them sat down in a private room. After the dishes were served, Han Lei raised his cup and smiled. This time you came in a hurry. I didn't have time to prepare. Let's welcome you here. Thank you. Qin Feng raised his cup. After drinking a cup, Han Lei shook his head and sighed. I never thought that you would choose to enter the Genten Budokan Heavenly Training Camp. Don't tell me you want to walk the path of martial arts. Qin Feng chuckled and said, I know you look down on the current stage of martial arts, but you have to admit that Xiantian is a little different. The elders in my family also said that even if the world changes again, Xiantian will not be eliminated. He might be able to seize the next opportunity. That's why my family arranged for me to enter the Genten Budokan Heavenly Training Camp. I want to experience the life of martial arts and observe Xiantian from a close distance. Han Lei's eyes moved slightly. The elders in his family had said something similar, but deep down, he looked down on the current stage of martial arts. However, Qin Feng's words made him start to reflect on himself. Seeing that Han Lei was silent, Qin Feng was not in a hurry. He looked around aimlessly. Suddenly, he saw Han Yingxue in a private room outside. Eh? Brother Lei, isn't that Yingxue? Han Lei also looked over and frowned. Seeing that Jiang Xi was sitting opposite Han Yingxue, he immediately became angry. He remembered that he had warned Jiang Xi not to get close to his sister. Now, the two of them were eating together, talking and laughing. Chapter 79. Who's the person opposite Yingxue? Qin Feng asked with a smile, but there was a hint of viciousness in his eyes. He's just a poor beggar with some so-called martial arts talent. Maybe he wants to be a toad that wants to eat swan meat. Wait for me, I'll go get rid of him, Han Lei said with disdain. He wanted to matchmake Qin Feng and Han Yingxue. Qin Feng's family, like the Han family, had an extraordinary background. Both families wanted to rise again in this era. This time, he definitely couldn't let Jiang Xi ruin this plan. Let's go together. I also want to see who can chat with Yingxue. Qin Feng's smile was very charming. If he became a celebrity, he would definitely be a heartthrob. A few women who passed by saw his smile and their eyes lit up. Qin Feng was already used to such gazes. He walked with Han Lei towards Jiang Xi and Han Yingxue. When they got closer, they heard Jiang Xi say, You're not bad. You're pretty and have a good temperament, but… Han Lei and Qin Feng's expressions immediately became even more unsightly. Han Yingxue was happy to hear Jiang Xi's words. Suddenly, she saw Han Lei and Qin Feng. Brother! She was slightly stunned. When she saw the two of them, the joy in her heart dissipated. Riverwood's words were interrupted. He thought to himself, I haven't finished my words yet. He had his back facing Han Lei and Qin Feng. He turned around in confusion. After seeing who it was, Jiang Xi nodded at Han Lei. Hello? After all, they had met before. It was good to greet him. He didn't want others to say that he was rude. At the same time, Jiang Xi looked curiously at the handsome young man beside him. He was a little surprised. This handsome young man looked younger than Han Lei, but his aura was actually the same as Han Lei's. He was also a D-class martial artist. A youth who was even more talented than Han Lei. At this time, Han Lei's face was so twisted that it looked like water could be wrung out of it. He ignored Jiang Xi and squeezed out a smile. He turned to Han Yingxue and said, Yingxue, this is Qin Feng. We met when we were young. You used to play with him in Shentian. Do you still remember? I remember. Hello, brother Qin Feng. Han Yingxue nodded. Hello, Yingxue. Long time no see. You've become even more beautiful, Qin Feng said politely. Brother Qin Feng, you flatter me. Han Ningxue smiled and said to Han Lei, Brother, I'm having dinner with my friends. I'll treat you and Brother Qin Feng alone when we get back. Unexpectedly, Han Lei made a surprised expression and said, Dinner with your friends? What friends? I didn't see them. Qin Feng also smiled and said, I didn't see them either. The atmosphere suddenly became cold. Han Ningxue was about to say something with a straight face. Jiang Xi stood up and said with a smile, Han Ningxue, it's about time. I have to go. I didn't say half of what I said just now. You're very outstanding, but love is a two-way street. As for Han Lei and Qin Feng's words, he didn't take them to heart. Why would he get angry with these idiots? It's not worth it. Han Ningxue's mood became low. She was rejected again and again. No matter how strong she was, she still suffered a big blow. I'll still say the same thing. I won't give up, Han Ningxue said with a firm expression. Jiang Xi shook his head helplessly. Then we'll meet again if fate wills it. He waved his hand and left. Looking at Jiang Xi's back, Han Lei and Qin Feng's expressions became even worse. Did that mean that Han Ningxue was chasing Jiang Xi? However, both of them were adults. They quickly adjusted their emotions. Han Lei said, Ningxue, you and Qin Feng haven't seen each other for many years. It's better to meet by chance. Let's sit down and have a chat. Qin Feng smiled gracefully. He looked very charming. Sorry, I'm not feeling well. I need to go back and rest. Goodbye. Han Ningxue was expressionless. She didn't look at the two of them again and left directly. Han Lei and Qin Feng were left frozen in place. The reason for her not feeling well couldn't be more obvious. Jiang Xi returned home humming a tune. He looked at the time. There was still an hour before lunch. He put on an apron and started cooking. 1 spicy pork trotter, 1 lamb with scallion, and 1 simple cold braised beef. That should be enough. Jiang Xi muttered to himself as he prepared the ingredients. The names of the dishes sounded ordinary, but the ingredients he used were not. The spicy pork trotter came from the leg of an F-grade blood-tusk wild boar. The lamb with scallion was from an E-grade sword-horn goat. The cold braised beef was also monster meat from an F-grade rockhorn bull. He didn't choose high-grade monster meat because Jiang Daoda wasn't a martial artist yet. At most, she could eat some E-grade monster meat before she reached her body's limit. But even so, the meat of these low-level monsters helped Jiang Daoda develop a good body. It helped her improve her martial arts training and laid a foundation for her. After that, Jiang Xi was drooling as he cooked. Because he wasn't full at the restaurant just now. It looked quite high-end, but the price was exorbitant. The portions of the food were extremely small. Next time, he must not go to a restaurant like this with Jiang Daoda. Otherwise, he would be nagged for a long time. An hour later, Jiang Daoda finished her training at the martial arts center and came back for lunch. Seeing the appetizing dishes, Jiang Daoda felt better. Humph! But on the surface, she still snorted, washed her hands, and sat down to eat. He went out with another woman without saying a word. This behavior made her very angry. She decided not to talk to Jiang Xi for the whole day. At the dining table, no one spoke. In addition, the villa's dining room was very big. For a moment, the atmosphere was a little strange. The dishes were very fragrant, but Jiang Xi couldn't taste anything. Daodu, do you want to take some time to play in Jianhai? I heard that the scenery there is very good. Jiang Xi broke the silence. Humph! Jiang Daoda lowered her head to eat. Why don't you go to Luo City? Don't you admire Li Bai? Maybe you can meet her there. Humph! How about Shu Mountain? It's close to Fengdu. Legend has it that it's related to the ghost city. Haven't you always wanted to catch a ghost as a pet? Maybe there really are ghosts. You can try your luck there. Humph! Jiang Xi had a headache after thinking carefully, he said seriously. Han Ningxue won't come in the future. Moreover, I really have nothing to do with her. Today's dinner is to make things clear to her. Really? Jiang Daoda suddenly raised her head. Of course it's true. When have I ever lied to you? Hee hee, I don't believe you. It's absolutely true. Train with me in the afternoon and I'll forgive you. No problem. Jiang Xi breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, he could eat properly. In the afternoon, Jiang Daoda didn't go to the martial arts center. The two of them trained in the villa's underground training room. Then, Jiang Xi became a sandbag for the whole afternoon. Because Jiang Daoda didn't allow him to fight back. Of course, with Jiang Daoda's current strength, even if he didn't fight back, he wouldn't be injured. However, what surprised Jiang Xi was that Jiang Daoda's physical fitness had become stronger. Although there was no detailed test, Jiang Xi estimated that Jiang Daoda's martial arts talent should be close to 80 points. At the very most, Jiang Daoda had only trained for 4 months. However, although he was surprised, Jiang Xi was very satisfied with Jiang Daoda's speed of improvement. The faster she improved, the better. This way, he could rest assured and continue on the path of martial arts. Chapter 80. At night, Jiang Daoda did not bother Jiang Xi anymore. Her anger was long gone. Jiang Xi was alone, practicing his sword in the underground training room. The brand new C-grade killer shadow sword kept stabbing in his hand. One strike after another. The blurry sword shadow on the sword became thicker. Buzz, 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 the speed of the sword became faster and faster, and the sound of the blade cutting through the air was heard. As he was practicing in his own house, he did not deliberately hide his swordsmanship level. No one could see it anyway. It had been 1.5 months since he returned from ruin number 052. With the EXP panel, his strength had improved significantly. Level: Bonehoned Union Degrade, 47011100. Cultivation Method: 9 Elements Heart Technique Martial Skills, 9 Elements Swordsmanship, Refinement 788180000. Wind Shadow Step, Refinement 696110000. Force Output 5. 95 Experience Points, 13767. 9 Elements Swordsmanship is about to reach the Unity level. It's close to 6 times the force output. My actual attack power has reached B grade. Also, Wind Shadow Step has improved greatly. My movement speed has reached 2 times the speed of sound, which is the standard of a B-grade martial artist. After 1.5 months of practice, his actual combat power had finally entered the B-grade martial artist ranks. While Jiang Xi was practicing his swordsmanship in the underground training room, someone knocked on Jiang Xi's door again. Jiang Daoda was watching a horror movie upstairs. She was very angry when she was suddenly disturbed. Han Ningxue had just come in the morning. Was that vixen here again? Didn't Jiang Xi say that the vixen would not come in the future? Jiang Daoda went to open the door with doubts. Uncle Lu? Lu Shan was standing at the door. A while ago, Lu Shan had specially guided her in martial arts training. The two of them had a good relationship. Jiang Daoda hurriedly invited Lu Shan into the house and politely offered to serve tea. Lu Shan waved his hand, indicating that there was no need. He asked, Daodu, is your brother home? He's practicing in the basement. Uncle Lu, are you looking for my brother? There's a small matter. Then I'll call him over. Haha, there's no need. I'll go find him myself. Oh, okay. Jiang Duda thought about the upcoming plot of the horror movie and ran back upstairs. Lu Shan shook his head and chuckled. Under normal circumstances, when others saw him, they would address him as Deputy Head or Senior Lu. Only Jiang Duda kept addressing him as Uncle. This actually made him feel close to her. Moreover, he did think highly of Jiang Duda. After such a long period of contact, he found that Jiang Duda's talent was also very high. Among the people he knew, she was second only to Jiang Xi. That was why he had taken the time to guide Jiang Dudu in her martial arts training. Lu Shan walked towards the underground training room. As he approached, his expression changed. He suddenly stopped and listened carefully. Buzz, 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 a faint sword hum could be heard. The soundproofing of the underground training room was very good. If he could hear it from the outside, it meant that the sound inside was even louder. This sound, the frequency at which the sword vibrates the air, is very unusual. Could it be minute subtlety? Lu Shan was shocked. He suddenly remembered that after Riverward signed the genius contract of the dojo and became a martial artist, he had chosen the 9-elemental sword technique. It was known as the most difficult high-level martial arts technique to master. Other than the creator of this technique, Li Bai, very few people could master it to the highest level. Last year, when Jiang Xi came back from the wilderness, his strength had reached Class D. At that time, I suspected that his swordsmanship was not bad. I didn't expect him to have reached such a high level. It seems that he is still hiding something. Lu Shan was shocked as he knocked on the door of the underground training room. Jiang Xi was also surprised to see Lu Shan. At the same time, he was puzzled. Lu Shan was the deputy head of the Pak Sun Province's Genten Budokan. He was also the leader of the first law enforcement team of the Pak Sun Province's Law Enforcement Bureau. It was so late, but he still came personally. Could it be that something had happened? Senior Lu! Jiang Xi greeted him politely. Although he now had Class B combat strength and was not weaker than Lu Shan, his attitude towards Lu Shan was still the same as before. He was very respectful. Jiang Xi, your Jiuyuan sword technique has reached minute subtlety? Jiang Xi was slightly stunned. He did not expect Lu Shan to ask about this. I reached it a while ago. Jiang Xi nodded casually. He didn't try to hide it. Lu Shan must have heard it when he was practicing his sword earlier. Lu Shan only knew that his Jiuyuan sword technique had reached minute subtlety, but he did not know that he was close to unity. After getting Jiang Xi's personal confirmation, Lu Shan was even more shocked. It took him a while to recover. Jiang Xi, you are really a monster! Lu Shan sighed. Jiang Xi's face was full of black lines. Why did these words coming out of Lu Shan's mouth sound like he was scolding him? Senior Lu, you came looking for me because of this? Jiang Xi asked. Lu Shan shook his head. His expression became serious. Do you know Qin Feng? Qin Feng? Jiang Xi was stunned. He had just seen him during the day. He was very handsome and looked like a hypocrite. He told Lu Shan about this situation. Today, he is investigating you through the Martial Practitioners Inspection Bureau. It seems like he wants to harm you. You have to be careful, Lu Shan said in a low voice. Does he have a strong background? Jiang Xi grasped the main point. To be able to make Lu Shan personally come to warn him, it seemed like the other party had a strong background. Lu Shan nodded. Very strong. Now that your strength has reached Class D, there is no harm in telling you some of the secrets. Jiang Xi was immediately curious. He loved to listen to such secretive things. You should know about the Han family in Pak Sun Province. 100 years ago, when the world changed, the Han family played a big role in Pak Sun Province being able to stand firm despite being surrounded by monsters. Lu Shan continued. I heard about this from Uncle Jiang. Senior Lu, are you saying that the Qin family is a similar family? That's right. The Qin family's position in Shuntian Prefecture is similar to the Han family's position in Pak Sun Province. Or rather, they are slightly stronger. Are the Han family and the Qin family very powerful? Very powerful. They have been passed down for many years before the Spirit Qi revival. It was just that no one knew about them. It was only when the Spirit Qi revival and the world changed that they took action and turned the tide. Hearing this, Jiang Xi frowned. It would be troublesome to have a grudge with such a big family. You don't have to worry too much. Although Qin Feng is the leader of the new generation of the Qin family, he can't represent the Qin family. As long as the fight between the younger generation doesn't cause a big mess, the higher-ups won't care. Lu Shan saw Jiang Xi frown and said some words of comfort. Jiang Xi nodded slightly. That was right. Qin Feng was just a D-class martial artist. How could he represent a big family like the Qin family? Thank you for your reminder, Senior Lu. I will take note. Jiang Xi expressed his gratitude to Lu Shan. Although he was not afraid of Qin Feng, if it were not for Lu Shan's reminder, it might have become troublesome if they met in the future. Just like when he killed Feng Shaoqing, he was still very careful. It had been a long time since he practiced the wind shadow steps. He was afraid that others would discover his attainments in speed. After Lu Shan left, Jiang Xi did not continue practicing his swordsmanship. Instead, he sat there and pondered. It seemed that his understanding of this world was still very shallow. It was only a little bit. Hidden families like the Qin family and the Han family were very powerful, but very few people knew about them. Strength. Only by becoming stronger can I be fearless. I don't care if they are monsters or demons. I will destroy them with a sword. Chapter 81. New Moon Year 93, January 5th. The 4 members of the Berserk Dragon Squad gathered again and headed to the wilderness after being sent off by their family members. This time, everyone was more cautious and did not go to Ruin 09, which was one of the top 10 most dangerous cities. Although they had earned a lot of money in Ruin 09, the danger they faced was just as great. To Wang Dalong and the rest, with the current strength of the Berserk Dragon Squad, it would be easier for them to go to a level 1 ruined city. Their target this time was Ruin 073, which was 400 kilometers away from Paksun Province. Ruin 073 was close to Luoqing Prefecture and was also a flat area. The danger level was above average. According to the intelligence, the strongest monster there was a Class B monster. The 4 of them were not slow and soon, they arrived at Ruin 073. After resting for a while, they started to hunt monsters. In an abandoned parking lot, there was a herd of horned fire bulls. They were the first target of the Berserk Dragon Squad. The leading horned fire bull was a Class D monster. Its ferocious horn was 2 meters long, and its body was more than 5 meters long. It was like a huge tank. Behind it, there were almost 100 Class E and F horned fire bulls. When they galloped, they looked ferocious. In a level 1 ruined city, there will be more low-level monsters around the Class D monsters. It will be harder to kill them. With my current strength, I only need to use half of my swordsmanship and movement skills to deal with the Class D horned fire bulls. With that thought in mind, Jiang Xi shouted, "Captain, you guys hold back the horde. Leave the biggest one to me." He had confirmed that the Berserk Dragon Squad was the main attacker. With the Killer Shadow Sword in hand, he dashed towards the Class D horned fire bulls. The Class C Killer Shadow Sword was extremely sharp. With the boost of strength and speed, the power of the sword easily reached the level of a top Class D monster. Swoosh! The tip of the sword swept across the neck of the Class D horned fire bull, leaving a big wound and blood splattering everywhere. At the same time, Jiang Xi changed his pace and flashed behind the horned fire bull. He attacked again. Swoosh! In less than a second, he had stabbed more than 10 times and caused great damage to the Class D horned fire bull. At the same time, Wang Dalong and the rest had not started fighting with the horde. They were shocked by River Word and were overwhelmed with shock. River Word had become stronger again. This D-Class 1 horned fire bull, with its super strong defense and strength, was even harder to kill than some C-Class monsters. However, in front of Jiang Xi, he was powerless to fight back. Rumble! When the horde of beasts arrived, Wang Dalong and the other 2 had no time to think. They all took action to restrain the horde of single-horned fire bulls. As for Jiang Xi, he was alone. Relying on his nimble movement technique, he circled around the D-Class 1 horned fire bull and continuously attacked with his sword. A moment later, the gigantic D-grade single-horned fire bull let out a mournful cry and crashed to the ground. You have killed a Class D single-horned fire bull, EXP plus 50. After that, Jiang Xi didn't stop, and his figure flashed as he charged into the herd of 1-horned flame bulls. The C-grade Shadow Slayer sword emitted a buzzing sound, creating a misty sword shadow. It was as fast as lightning, landing on the bodies of the 1-horned fire bulls. You have killed a rank E single-horned fire bull, EXP plus 30. You killed a rank F single-horned fire bull, EXP plus 10. You have killed a rank E single-horned fire bull, EXP plus 30. Although Jiang Xi had only displayed a small part of his movement technique, the power of wind shadow steps still allowed him to perfectly dodge the crazy attacks of the herd of one-horned fire bulls. He didn't receive any damage from the herd. In addition, Wang Dalong, Lu Hao, and Tian Chenfeng were also attacking. Soon, the herd of nearly 100 E-class and F-class one-horned fire bulls was completely wiped out by the Mad Dragon squad. After careful calculation, half of them were killed by Jiang Xi. Wang Dalong and the others didn't immediately go to harvest the monster materials. Instead, they looked at Jiang Xi and sighed. Every time I discover that Jiang Xi has become stronger, I suspect that we are not practicing the same martial arts as Jiang Xi. Lu Hao was very shocked. I remember that half a year ago, when Jiang Xi had just joined our Mad Dragon squad, we were still thinking about how long it would take for him to reach rank E. But we didn't expect that in just half a year, not only did he reach rank E, his actual combat power has even surpassed the captain. Tian Chenfeng shook his head in disbelief. Looks like we are getting old. Wang Dalong sighed. Jiang Xi's expression was calm. He wondered if they would doubt their lives if he unleashed his full combat power. Something worth mentioning was that just yesterday, he had successfully raised the 9 elemental sword technique to the Unity realm. His strength had finally increased by more than 6 times, and his strength had increased by another step. For the sake of friendship, it was better to continue keeping a low profile. After harvesting the monster materials from the herd of one-horned fire bulls, the 4 of them didn't stop and turned to the next target. After half a year of training, they had a tacit understanding with each other. Their efficiency in hunting monsters was very high. Correspondingly, the speed of earning money was also getting faster and faster. Time passed, and very soon, half a month had passed. While the Mad Dragon squad was crazily hunting monsters in Ruin 073. Pak Sun Province, Jenten Budokan. A great transport plane drew a streak of light and stopped at the plaza in front of the 3 huge buildings of the dojo. A man who looked to be in his 30s walked out of the transport plane. There was a faint smile on his dignified square face. If one looked closely, they would notice that his eyes were filled with vicissitudes of life, which didn't match his age. On the plaza, the dojo master of the Jenten Budokan, Qin Yuan, and the deputy dojo master Lu Shan of Pak Sun Province had been waiting for a long time. When they saw the transport plane arrive, the 2 of them looked at each other and went up to welcome it. The person who came was called Lu Kuei. He looked to be in his 30s, but he was actually close to his 60s. He was one of the 12 deacons in charge of the daily affairs of the Jenten Budokan headquarters. The 12 deacons of the Jenten Budokan were all powerful A-class warriors. In other words, Lu Kuei was worthy of being welcomed by both of them. Old Chen, long time no see. You've been hiding in the Pak Sun province. You're living a comfortable life. You don't have to run around. Lu Kuei laughed heartily. Qin Yuan smiled and said, Why don't we switch places? You can be the dojo master of this branch, and I'll be the deacon in the headquarters. Ahaha, let's talk about this later. Let's talk about business. Lu Kuei changed the topic decisively. Qin Yuan didn't mind. He brought Lu Kuei to the dojo master's office in the first building. Lu Shan chuckled as he followed behind. He couldn't interrupt the banter between the 2 A-class warriors. In terms of strength and status, Lu Kuei, who was the deacon, was definitely stronger and had access to more resources. Of course, from Lu Shan's point of view, his superior, Qin Yuan, wouldn't be much worse. This was because Qin Yuan was younger and had the opportunity to break through to the A-class realm. As for the purpose of Lu Kuei's sudden visit, Lu Shan could guess it. As one of the 12 deacons of the Jenten Budokan, Lu Kuei's main task was to run the training camp in the headquarters. Jenten Budokan had 4 major training camps: Sky, Earth, Black, and Yellow. Every year, a certain number of geniuses would be recruited from the 7 major prefectures of Xia country for training. The news that Jenten Budokan had a good seedling in Pak Sun province had spread. Especially after the news that Jiang Xi's actual combat strength had reached D-class, The other forces in Pak Sun Province's martial arts world had long been jealous. Lu Kuei was definitely here for Jiangxi. He just didn't know which training camp Jiangxi would be recruited to. Chapter 82. Building 1, Jenten Budokan, Pak Sun Province, Head Qingyuan's office. What Lu Shan could guess, Qingyuan could also guess. He had already prepared everything. Qingyuan directly called up a holographic projection and said to Lu Kuei, "This is all the information on Jiangxi." In the holographic projection, there were images that recorded Jiangxi's daily life and growth. It started from when Jiangxi rented a room in Apricot Garden, passed looming junior high school's entrance exam, and returned from Ruin 052. Lu Kuei looked carefully and nodded from time to time. "Why is there no record of his growth before the age of 13? Lu Kuei asked. Qingyuan was not clear about this. He looked at Lu Shan. Lu Shan explained. "Jiangxi was born as a street child, so we can't find any records before that." "Street child?" Lu Kuei was surprised. "Yes, and he has a sister. To be able to grow to this stage is very admirable." Lu Shan was a little emotional. Lu Kuei nodded approvingly and continued to look at the information. After a while, when he finished looking, he showed a satisfied expression and said, "Calculating the time, he should be 18 years old and has the combat strength of a D-class martial artist. And the time he really came into contact with martial arts is less than a year. This speed of improvement is worthy of being the first genius to get full marks in martial arts talent since the recovery of spirit qi." Qingyuan and Lu Shan looked at each other. "Then, which training camp is Senior Lu going to let Jiangxi enter?" Lu Shan was concerned about this question. Lu Kuei frowned and said, "Before coming, I was going to let him enter the Earth-level training camp. But now that I've seen his information, he can still step on the path of martial arts in such a difficult environment. This shows that his talent is better than I thought." A tough environment could train one's temperament, and temperament was an important quality to become a strong person. Lu Shan was delighted. Could it be that Jiangxi could enter the sky-level training camp? Jenten Budokan's heaven-level training camp could be said to be the best training camp in the world. Because the heavenly-level training camp's goal was to nurture A-class fighters, students who graduated normally had a high chance of becoming A-class fighters. The total number of people in the heaven-level training camp was maintained at 100. Every year, 20 trainees would graduate and 20 new trainees would join among the 7 prefectural cities of the Great Xia Kingdom, other than the weakest Jiahai Prefecture, which only had 2 spots for the Heaven Stage training camp each year. The other 6 prefectural cities had 3 spots each year. If Jiangxi could enter, then there was hope for him to become an A-class fighter. Lu Kuei continued. "Logically speaking, Jiangxi should be allowed to enter the heaven-level training camp. Unfortunately, some time ago, Shuntian Prefecture's Qin family used your Pak Sun Province's Han family to take away a spot for the heaven-level training camp in Pak Sun Province. Now, the 3 spots for the heaven-level training camp in Pak Sun Province have been filled." Filled? Lu Shan immediately became anxious. The difference between the heaven-level training camp and the earth-level training camp was like heaven and earth. "Senior Lu, if Jiangxi can be nurtured well, he can definitely become an A-class fighter." Lu Shan wanted to fight for Jiangxi. Lu Kuei shook his head. "There's no other way. The rules of the training camp were set by the headmaster and the 4 elders. I can't change them. In fact, Jiangxi can enter the Earth-level training camp first. With his talent, if he performs well in the Earth-level training camp, he can also be promoted to the Heaven-level training camp. Wait until the end of the year? That's about a year's time. On the path of martial arts, victory lies in the competition. The younger one is, the easier it is to increase one's strength. Jiangxi's gap of a year will have a huge impact. Can't you think of a way?" Qingyuan frowned. "Unless Jiangxi's talent or perception can make one of the 4 elders speak up and make an exception for him. To put it bluntly, with Jiangxi's current situation, it will be difficult to move the 4 elders. You also know that they value the inheritances of the hidden families more." Lu Kuei hesitated. Lu Shan and Qin Yuan fell into silence. Although Jiang Xi was the first genius to get full marks for martial arts talent only represented potential. Whether or not he could grow was another matter. The four elders of Genten Budokan were all top A-class fighters. They were only one step away from reaching A-class. They had very high standards and placed great importance on rules. It would be very difficult to make one of the elders speak up and make an exception for Jiang Xi. Talent, perception, Lu Shan murmured. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he said loudly, I know! Jiang Xi can enter the heaven-level training camp. Qin Yuan and Lu Kui looked at him doubtfully. Lu Shan hurriedly said, I just remembered. Half a month ago, when I went to Jiang Xi's house, I found that Jiang Xi's 9 elemental swordsmanship had reached the minute subtlety realm. Moreover, he had only practiced it for half a year. I wonder if this will be able to move the four elders? His 9 elemental swordsmanship has reached the minute subtlety realm after only practicing it for half a year? Lu Kui and Qin Yuan were both shocked. It was known as the most difficult high-level martial arts technique to practice. Even the two of them, A-class fighters, were not confident that they could reach the minute subtlety realm in half a year. After recovering from his shock, Lu Kui said under Lu Shan and Qin Yuan's expectant gaze, Now, his talent and perception are no longer a problem. I will contact Elder Tang now. He is the kindest of the four elders. Lu Shan and Qin Yuan were overjoyed. Immediately, Lu Kui used his tactical communications watch to call Elder Tang. What's the matter? A low voice came from the other side of the phone. Lu Kui briefly explained Jiang Xi's situation. Half a year, 9 elemental swordsmanship has reached the minute subtlety realm, 18 years old, actual combat power of D-class. There was silence on the other side of the phone, probably thinking. The three of them did not dare to speak and waited quietly. After a while, the voice came from the other side of the phone again. The rules cannot be broken. Give him a chance. Let him pass the 3rd floor of Lingwan Road. If he can pass the 3rd floor, he can join the heaven-class training camp. This way, the other 3 elders will have nothing to say. After saying this, the phone hung up. Lu Shan laughed. He believed that Jiang Xi could pass. However, Qin Yuan's expression was somewhat serious. He said to Lu Kui, Isn't passing the 3rd floor of Lingwan Road too difficult? Even the trainees of the heaven-class training camp can only reach the 2nd floor when they first enter, and some can only reach the 1st floor. Hearing this, Lu Shan's smile gradually disappeared. He asked, Is Lingwan Road very difficult? Very difficult. Trainees who enter the heaven-class training camp basically have to wait a year before they have a chance to pass the 3rd floor, Qin Yuan said in a deep voice. Lu Kui also smiled bitterly. This is the biggest concession Elder Tang can make. Any more and the other 3 elders will definitely object. Although the chances are slim, it's better than none. Lu Shan's expression changed. He could hear that Qin Yuan and Lu Kui were not optimistic about Jiang Xi. I believe in Jiang Xi, Lu Shan suddenly said. I hope so. Qin Yuan and Lu Kui both shook their heads. Where is Jiang Xi now? I want to see him, Lu Kui said again. Lu Shan was more familiar with Jiang Xi. He nodded and said, He's in the wilderness. Let me check his specific location. Soon, he used his authority to locate Riverwood's location. He's in Ruin 073, 400 kilometers from here. Lu Kui smiled and said, Then hurry up. Don't waste time. Take my plane there. Chapter 83. It was almost evening. In the middle of a crossroad in Ruin number 073, a silver-striped red python that was almost 10 meters long was wreaking havoc. The surrounding buildings collapsed one after another, stirring up clouds of dust. Jiang Xi's body was like a phantom as he dodged the silver-striped red python's attacks. This silver-striped red python was a top-tier D-grade monster. It had a strong physique, high defense, and was extremely agile. It was good at both offense and defense, making it as difficult to kill as a C-grade monster. But last time in Ruin number 09, The Mad Dragon Squad could even kill a C-grade goldenback blue wolf. This silver-striped red python was nothing. The only difference was that this time, Jiang Xi was the only one hunting the silver-striped red python. Wang Dalong and the other two watched from the side. Since there were no monsters around the silver-striped red python, they did not need to do anything. It was not that they did not want to help, but in reality, they were not good enough. Against the agile silver-striped red python, they could easily get hurt. So, Jiang Xi was the only one who could handle it. Jiang Xi was very confident. With his mysterious footwork, he kept dodging the silver-striped red python's attacks. Ding! 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 The C-grade killer shadow sword slashed at the silver-striped red python's skin, creating a series of sparks. Its defense was too high. Only by attacking a single point and piercing continuously will I have a chance to break its defense. Point, line, and surface. By concentrating the power of the attack on a single point, it was the most powerful. With that in mind, Jiang Xi increased his speed slightly, and his body became even more unpredictable. Under the silver-striped red python's frenzied attacks, he seemed to be able to handle it with ease. Chi! The tip of the sword pierced through the silver-striped red python's tough skin 1 meter below its head, and went half a foot deep. Hiss! The silver-striped red python hissed, and its half-meter-long forked tongue flickered continuously. Its huge body danced wildly, trying to wrap around Jiang Xi. But Jiang Xi's body flashed, and he dodged the silver-striped red python's swipe. Chi! The killer shadow sword kept stabbing forward, and every strike accurately hit the same spot. The wound became bigger and bigger. Gradually, the silver-striped red python slowed down. It hissed in the cloud of dust. Final strike! Jiang Xi's eyes did not waver at all. He leaped lightly, and from top to bottom, his sword brought along a misty sword shadow as it fiercely stabbed out. Puchi! The 3-feet-long sword blade followed the wound and pulled hard. The silver-striped red python, which was thicker than a bucket, was almost cut in half. Its huge python head slumped to the ground. You killed a grade D silver-striped red python, EXP plus 50. Jiang Xi panted softly and deliberately made it look like he had expended a lot of energy. In the distance, Wang Dalong and the other two were only left with shock and awe. Jiang Xi had taken care of the silver-striped red python on his own, which meant that he had the ability to fight a Class C monster alone. This kind of combat power was no longer as simple as a top-notch D-class fighter. It could barely be considered a C-class fighter. I suddenly realized that we're about to become Jiang Xi's burden. Wang Dalong smiled bitterly, somewhat disappointed. He's growing too fast. Lu Hao and Tian Chifeng felt the same way. But very quickly, their attention was attracted by the reward this time. A grade D silver-striped red python was as difficult to kill as a Class C monster. Correspondingly, the price was also very high, between 200 to 300 million new moon dollars. A single kill was equivalent to a few days' worth of earnings. Jiang Xi did not know what Wang Dalong and the other two were thinking. He still maintained a humble and indifferent attitude. Captain, should we continue hunting? Jiang Xi asked. It's getting late. Let's go back to the stronghold and rest. Wang Dalong smiled. After that, the four of them quickly left the place. Their stronghold was in a dilapidated high-class residential area, more than 3 kilometers away from here. The four of them chatted and laughed along the way, walking for about 2 kilometers. Jiang Xi suddenly stopped and raised his hand to signal everyone to stop. There's the sound of fighting over there. Jiang Xi looked to the right. Wang Dalong and the other two heard it too. Standing there, they could vaguely hear people screaming in fear in the distance, mixed with the roars of monsters. The four of them did not rush forward. They quickly climbed up a nearby building and used binoculars to observe the situation. They saw 6 people surrounded by a group of monsters. They were in a precarious situation. As they were far away, they could not see their faces clearly. They could only see their clothes. They're students from the Shushan College of Martial Arts. What's wrong with these College of Martial Arts students? Don't they know how strong they are? Lu Hao and Tian Chifeng complained. Jiang Xi and Wang Dalong looked at each other. They had to save them. Save them! Wang Dalong shouted. The four of them were like falcons. They jumped down from a high place and flew away. The 6 people surrounded by monsters were all from the Shushan College of Martial Arts. One of them was the teacher leading the team, and the other 5 were students. The teacher was a grade E martial artist, and the students were all grade F martial artists. It's over! It's over! We're going to die! A student screamed. The other people's faces were also ashen. They resisted the monster's attacks with difficulty. The teacher leading the team was even more regretful. He thought that nothing would happen as long as they were careful. He did not expect that they would be surrounded by a group of monsters on the first day. This group of monsters was made up of more than a dozen grade E monsters. What made them despair was that the leader of the group was close to grade D. It was very difficult for them to resist. Xiao Wei, find a chance to escape with everyone. I'll block these monsters. The teacher leading the team gritted his teeth and said. Among the 5 students, one of them was Xiao Wei, who had a grudge with Jiang Xi. His strength was close to grade E. He was the strongest among the 5 students. However, the crazy monsters made his mind chaotic. He could not use his strength at all. He faced 3 grade F monsters in a hurry. There were already several wounds on his body. When Xiao Wei heard the teacher's words, he turned around and ran. He did not care about anything else. When he ran, the 3 grade F monsters that surrounded him lost their target. They immediately turned to other people, making the situation even more dangerous. Xiao Wei! The teacher leading the team was furious. A student was pushed to the ground by a monster. He would lose his life in the next second. It's over! The remaining people almost gave up resisting. At this moment, a sword light flew past. Xiao! In less than a second, the sword light accompanied by a human figure directly cut the monster that was pouncing on the student into 2 halves. Then, the human figure turned around and attacked continuously in the group of monsters. More than a dozen grade F monsters became more than a dozen corpses in the blink of an eye. Even the leader of the group that was close to grade D could not withstand a single sword strike. From the time he attacked to the end of the battle, it took less than 3 seconds. When the human figure stood still, the teacher leading the team and the students realized that the one who attacked was actually a young man. The young man was fully armed. His figure was tall and straight. His face was firm, giving people a sense of steadiness. So powerful! The few of them were stunned. At the same time, they were overjoyed. They were saved. Swoosh! Swoosh! Another 3 people arrived. Damn, Jiang Xi! You're too fast. Why didn't you leave us some time? Lu Hao shouted. In the distance, Xiao Wei, who had just run a short distance, paused. He quickly stopped and turned around. Jiang Xi? His expression changed drastically. Chapter 84. I'm Lu Ming, a teacher from Shushan College of Martial Arts. Thank you for your help. Lu Ming thanked them sincerely. You're welcome. Wang Dalong smiled and shook his head. Then he changed the topic and scolded in a deep voice. Didn't your college warn you not to go to dangerous ruins during your training? Lu Ming was embarrassed and apologized. We were too careless. We thought we would be fine as long as we were careful. We didn't expect the theoretical knowledge taught by the college to be so different from the actual situation. You should leave quickly and go to a smaller ruin, Wang Dalong said. Jiang Xi did not speak. Suddenly, he heard footsteps coming from a ruined building in the distance. He turned his head and saw a familiar figure. Xiao Wei? What a coincidence! Jiang Xi frowned slightly. He remembered that Zhang Wei told him before that Xiao Wei once represented Shushan College of Martial Arts in the competition of the 4 major College of Martial Arts, and even won 4th place. In that case, it was not strange that Xiao Wei appeared in this training team. Now that the 2 of them had different statuses, Jiang Xi was not interested in finding trouble with Xiao Wei, so he just glanced at him indifferently and turned his gaze away. However, Jiang Xi could maintain an indifferent attitude, but Lu Ming and the others could not. Xiao Wei, you're too disappointing. You abandoned your companions and ran away alone. Lu Ming scolded angrily. Xiao Wei, I'm your friend. You almost killed me just now. It's better if we don't be friends in the future. The student who was almost killed by the monster said with a cold face. The other 3 students also looked at Xiao Wei with disdain in their eyes. Xiao Wei's face was ugly. He clenched his fists and looked at Jiang Xi hatefully. Then he lowered his head and did not say a word. He knew that he was in the wrong. Without the halo of his background, he could no longer be as arrogant as before. Jiang Xi, Wang Dalong, and the others looked at each other. So there was such a thing. Although they looked down on the behavior of abandoning his companions in such a critical moment, they did not meddle in other people's business. That was because Xiao Wei had already been punished. Once they returned to the academy and this matter spread, there wouldn't be many people who would be willing to befriend Xiao Wei. Thank you again for your support. If I have the chance to come to Shushan Prefecture in the future, I will treat you well. Lu Ming thanked them again and prepared to leave. Then he left with the students, while Xiao Wei followed behind without saying a word. Before they had gone far, boom! A series of sonic booms resounded in the sky. It attracted everyone's attention. A great transport plane whizzed through the dark sky and arrived above the crowd in an instant. Who is it? He actually drove the transport plane directly to the ruined city. Everyone was shocked and puzzled. Due to the huge commotion caused by the transport plane landing directly in the ruined city, it was easy to attract the attention of a large group of beasts. Those who were not strong could only wait for death. Roar! Roar! As expected, when the transport plane slowly landed, there were beastly roars coming from Ruin 073, and a group of beasts were gathering there. At this moment, the hatch of the transport plane opened and 3 people walked out. Senior Lu! Principal, Deputy Principal? Jiang Xi, Wang Dalong, and the others were even more surprised. There was another person they did not know, but judging from his aura, he was also an unfathomable grade A elite. At the same time, the group of beasts that were gathering there, under the deterrence of the 3 people, fled frantically as if they were running for their lives. Soon, the surroundings quieted down. Under everyone's surprise, Lu Shan smiled and said, Jiang Xi, this is Lu Kui, the manager of the Genten Budokan headquarters. He came all the way here for you. For me? Jiang Xi was confused. Manager of the headquarters? Could it be the 4 great training camps of the headquarters? Wang Dalong exclaimed. With his exclamation, everyone was even more confused. Only Lu Ming's expression changed. He was a teacher in the College of Martial Arts, responsible for teaching students to become martial artists. He had also heard of the existence of the Genten Budokan's 4 great training camps. He looked at Jiang Xi enviously. To be able to make the manager of the Genten Budokan headquarters come personally, the meaning was obvious. All right, let's talk about this when we get back. Jiang Xi, leave with us now. Lu Kui smiled. Although the 4 great training camps was not a secret, he did not want to talk about it in front of so many people. Jiang Xi hesitated for a moment, and looked at Lu Shan with a questioning gaze. Lu Shan nodded slightly. Okay. Jiang Xi agreed. What about us? Wang Dalong asked quickly. Qin Yuan smiled and said, Dalong, Jiang Xi will leave your Mad Dragon squad from today onwards. You can return to the barracks to rest and wait for further instructions. Leave the Mad Dragon squad. Wang Dalong and the rest looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Jiang Xi was now the pillar of their squad. Hearing this, Jiang Xi frowned slightly and said to Wang Dalong, Captain, you can go back first. Wang Dalong nodded slightly. After that, Jiang Xi followed behind Lu Shan and the rest and boarded the transport plane. The great transport plane, like an eagle, whistled and disappeared into the horizon. Looking at this scene, Wang Dalong sighed and said, Jiang Xi has finally caught the attention of the higher-ups. This is good, he will have greater development in the future. Staying in the Mad Dragon squad will only be a burden to him. Captain, the training camps you mentioned just now, what are they? Tian Chenfeng asked curiously. The headquarters of the Black Sky Martial House has 4 major training camps: Sky, Earth, Black, and Yellow. All of them train elite martial artists. The strongest training camp is the Sky Level Training Camp, and its purpose is to train A-class martial artists, Wang Dalong said with longing. Then he sighed and said, I just don't know which training camp Jiang Xi can enter. Earth level? Or Sky level? Lu Hao and Tian Chifeng were envious. If that was the case, Jiang Xi was going to take off. With Jiang Xi gone, our Mad Dragon squad's strength will be reduced by half. It's about time to disband. What are your plans? Wang Dalong asked. Lu Hao and Tian Chifeng looked at each other. Tian Chifeng smiled and said, Maybe I will bid farewell to the wilderness. After so many years, my heart is a little tired. I still want to fight for a few more years. Captain, will we still be together? Lu Hao looked at Wang Dalong. It depends. I'm going to find a C-class fighter squad or try my luck and see if I can enter a B-class fighter squad. Wang Dalong smiled. Lu Hao nodded with some regret. Although he and Wang Dalong were both D-class, he had become a D-class martial artist through the use of the body-strengthening potion, while Wang Dalong had risen steadily and was only one step away from becoming a C-class martial artist. They could not be compared. What Wang Dalong meant was to politely reject him. In the distance, Lu Ming and the others had just recovered from the shock. They looked enviously in the direction of the transport plane. However, they were congratulating Jiang Xi. After all, Jiang Xi had just saved them. Unlike them, Qiao Wei's eyes were filled with hatred and unwillingness. However, deep in his heart, there was also envy. He remembered that he had told Jiang Xi that Jiang Xi could only see his back. It was the same in the past, now, and in the future. Now, the situation was completely reversed. He could only watch Jiang Xi leave quickly. He could not even see his back. Because Jiang Xi was in the transport plane. Chapter 85. They quickly returned to Genten Budokan, Pak Sun Province. Although he still did not understand what had happened, Jiang Xi remained calm and remained silent throughout the journey. Lu Kuei secretly nodded in approval at his calm attitude. After getting off the plane, the 4 of them walked into Genten Budokan Building 1 under the curious gazes of the other members of the dojo. In Dojo Master Qinyuan's office, Lu Kuei explained the situation to Jiang Xi. Jiang Xi, you should have heard of our Genten Budokan's 4 great training camps, right? Lu Kuei asked. No. Jiang Xi shook his head honestly. He had never heard of them before. Lu Shan explained to Jiang Xi. After listening to his explanation, Jiang Xi was enlightened. The 4 great training camps recruit all kinds of martial arts geniuses in the Xia Empire every year and nurture them. Especially the Heaven-level training camp, the goal is to nurture A-class martial artists. Students in the Heaven-level training camp will undergo 5 years of learning and training. During this period, they will receive the best martial arts nurturing in the world and will be personally taught by a top-notch A-class martial artist. They will be exposed to all kinds of unimaginable cultivation resources, such as fate potions and mystic realms. It can be said that if you can enter the Heaven-level training camp, as long as you don't make any mistakes in the future, becoming an A-class martial artist is a foregone conclusion. Now you have the opportunity. Lu Shan's eyes glowed. A-class martial artist? Riverwood felt that it was dull and uninteresting. There was no difficulty at all. However, he still pretended to be interested and asked, Then, how can I enter the Heaven-level training camp? Originally, with your qualifications, you could directly enter the Sky-level training camp, but unfortunately, Pak Sun Province has just used up the 3 spots this year. It was Deacon Lu who applied to Elder Tang at the headquarters to make an exception for you. As long as you pass the 3rd stage of Lingwan Road, you can enter the Sky-level training camp. Of course, if you fail, you can only enter the Earth-level training camp, and the chances of you becoming an A-class fighter will be much smaller. Qinyuan explained. Thank you, Deacon Lu. Jiang Xi quickly thanked him, and then said, I have a question. What is Lingwan Road? Lu Kui smiled and said, If you want me to answer now, I can't say for a moment. In short, it's very magical, similar to an illusion. When you experience it yourself, you will understand what is going on. Oh, I'll think about it. Jiang Xi said calmly. Think about it? Lu Kui's smile froze. Qin Yuan and Lu Shan were also stunned. Under normal circumstances, shouldn't he agree to it without even thinking about it? Many geniuses would fight to enter the sky-level training camp after hearing it, but Jiang Xi actually wanted to think about it. Jiang Xi, what is there to think about? Lu Shan was puzzled. Senior Lu, you know my family's situation. Jiang Daoda is so young, and you want me to leave her for 5 years? Jiang Xi shook his head. This was different from him going to the wilderness, where he could come back at any time. If he went to the sky-level training camp, it would not be so easy to come back at any time. Lu Shan was silent. Of course, he was clear about the brother and sister's situation. Lu Kui smiled and said, It's not like I'm locking you up for 5 years. Students in the sky-level training camp have 2 months of vacation at the end of every year. Moreover, if you really enter the sky-level training camp, as long as you can become an A-class fighter in advance, you can graduate early. Then I'll think about it. Jiang Xi insisted on his attitude. Lu Kui frowned, somewhat displeased. He was an A-class fighter, one of the 12 deacons of the Genten Budokan. He was already very polite to speak with Jiang Xi so patiently. All right, old Lu, give him a day to think about it. Qin Yuan tried to smooth things over. Lu Kui nodded. Thank you. Jiang Xi was very grateful. He just realized that his attitude was a little too tough and could easily offend people. The opportunity to enter the sky-level training camp had a big impact on Jiang Xi. On the way home, he was also thinking about this matter. Just by listening to Lu Shan and the other's simple introduction, he could infer that the sky-level training camp was very powerful. Things like Lingwan Road, fantasy, and so on sounded very fantastical. Considering that the Spirit Chi revival had appeared, there was nothing to make a fuss about if it was a fantasy. I have the experience points panel. It's not difficult to become an A-class fighter at all. It's just a matter of time. If I enter the sky-level training camp with the help of the resources there, I think the time to become an A-class fighter can be shortened by a lot. And once I enter the sky-level training camp, I don't have to worry about the threat of Feng Xian. That's the headquarters of the Genten Budokan. No one dares to be presumptuous. Jiang Xi analyzed the advantages and disadvantages of entering the sky-level training camp in his mind. As for whether he could enter or not, he didn't even consider it. What a joke. His actual combat strength had already reached B class. If he still couldn't enter, he might as well be slapped to death with tofu. What a pity! Jiang Xi shook his head. He had already reached the door of his house. He raised his head and looked at the big villa in front of him. If it weren't for Jiang Dudu, he would definitely go. But reality was reality. In general, in his heart, he had already tacitly agreed not to go. When he got home, Jiang Dudu still hadn't come back. It's already past 7 in the evening. Doubter should be home after school. Jiang Xi was a little puzzled. After thinking about it, Jiang Xi slapped his head. Jiang Dudu should be training at the dojo at this time. It seems that the sky-level training camp matter still affected me. Jiang Xi shook his head and threw this matter to the back of his mind. After sending a message to Jiang Dudu, he started to cook. In less than 10 minutes, Jiang Dudu rushed home like the wind. Brother, why are you back? Jiang Dudu ran back, panting, her small face slightly red. Every time Jiang Xi went into the wilderness, it was basically a month. This time, it was only half a month. Something happened, so I came back early. Jiang Xi was wearing a red apron and washing vegetables. He turned around and smiled. Help me wash the green onions. I'll make a dish of lamb with fried onions tonight. Oh! Jiang Dudu didn't ask what happened and started to wash the green onions. The two of them chatted and laughed as they finished preparing the meal. Sweet and sour pork, lamb with fried onions, and stewed pork knuckles. Of course, the ingredients were all monster meat, which was nutritious and high in energy. During dinner, Jiang Duda suddenly said, "Brother, there's something on your mind. You've seen through me." Jiangxi chuckled and briefly explained the situation in the heaven-level training camp. The Genten Budokan headquarters is on the plateau in the west of Qingnan Prefecture. It's thousands of miles away from here. It's too far. That's why I don't want to go. Jiang Duda put down her chopsticks and stared at Jiang Xi. She said with a serious expression, "Brother, I don't want to be a burden to you." Jiang Xi was stunned and smiled. "You're not a burden." Jiang Duda shook her head. "You don't understand what I mean. What era is it now?" Without waiting for Jiang Xi to answer, Jiang Duda answered, "It's the era of warriors. The era where the strong are respected. Brother, you should pursue the path of the strong. You have to remember that the separation now is for the sake of a better encounter in the future. Being born in this era, if you don't have strength, you can only live on while at death's door. The two of us must become strong." Chapter 86. Jiang Xi's mind was shaken. He knew very well that Jiang Duda had always lacked a sense of security after living as a vagabond for so many years. To be able to say such words, Jiang Duda must have expended a lot of courage. The separation now was for a better encounter in the future. Being born in this era, if one did not have strength, they would at most struggle to survive. Strength. He quietly looked at the experience panel. Level, Bonehorn Level D, 6500110000. Cultivation Method, 9 elements Heart Technique, Martial Technique, 9 elements Sword Technique, Fusion, 168130000. Wind Shadow Steps, Refinement, 876110000. Force Exertion, 6. 22 Experience Points, 32977. During the half a month in Ruin number 073, he had improved a lot. Based on his current speed of gaining 100 experience points per day, he would need another 2 months to reach level C. Jiang Xi knew himself well. If he wanted to reach level A in terms of actual combat power, level C was definitely not enough. Currently, on the experience panel, the only thing that can be broken through in a short time is Wind Shadow Steps. However, with just Wind Shadow Steps at the fusion realm, it will be difficult to reach level A in terms of combat power. In his plan, he was prepared to use 2 to 3 years to achieve his goal of reaching level A in terms of actual combat power. However, after listening to Jiang Duda's words, Jiang Xi suddenly remembered that he had been very careful recently, not daring to reveal his true speed and strength. He was afraid of being discovered as the murderer with a huge bounty on his head. This kind of life was somewhat sullen. Could it be that before becoming a martial artist, he would have to be so careful? No one could guarantee that he could keep a low profile in these 2 to 3 years. No matter how careful he was, there would always be a time when he would give himself away. However, after entering the training camp, these worries would no longer exist. At that time, not only would he be able to borrow the cultivation resources of the heaven-level training camp to shorten the time needed to reach level A, but he would also be able to eliminate the threat of Feng Xian after a moment of silence. Jiang Xi understood all these. He stared into Jiang Duda's eyes and said seriously, "I'll go." Jiang Duda smiled very happily. The next morning, in Chen Yuan's office, Jiang Xi and Lu Kuei sat side by side in front of their desks, signing the enrollment contract for the training camp. Beside him stood Chen Yuan and Lu Shan. They were the witnesses. "This contract is equivalent to a letter of intent. If you can pass the 3rd stage of Lingwan Road, you can sign an official heaven-level training contract with the dojo. Of course, if you fail, you can only enter the Earth-level training camp." Lu Kuei laughed. Jiang Xi nodded gently. He was full of confidence. "Trust me, you won't regret your decision today. Our Genten Budokan's 4 great training camps are the best training grounds in the world." Lu Kuei added when he saw that Jiang Xi did not have much of a reaction. Jiang Xi quickly put on a longing expression. His reaction just now was a little cold. "Very good. Lu Kuei was very satisfied with Jiang Xi's attitude. This was the expression that geniuses should have before entering the training camp. Qin Yuan and Lu Shan also laughed. Everyone was happy. Especially Lu Shan. He had witnessed Jiang Xi's growth. He was happy that Jiang Xi could have such an opportunity. He hoped that Jiang Xi could successfully enter the heaven-level training camp. Go and prepare. Say goodbye to your family and friends. We will leave for the dojo headquarters in 3 days. Lu Kuei laughed. Say goodbye to his family and friends? After leaving Qin Yuan's office, Jiang Xi suddenly understood. Yes, after entering the training camp, he could not return home as he wished, like in the wilderness. Family, friends. After thinking for a while, Jiang Xi shook his head and smiled. It did not seem like much. But as long as it was sincere, it was fine. In the next 3 days, Jiang Xi spent 2 days with Jiang Daodu. He cooked at home, took a walk, watched movies, and chatted. He also went to Uncle Yang's house for half a day. It was very relaxing. Riverward had also completely forgotten to cultivate, and had truly relaxed. There was only 1 day left. Jiang Xi called Zhang Wei, Jiangxing, Wang Dalong, and the others to gather in a Genten Budokan restaurant. TSK, Genten Budokan headquarters training camp. After understanding the situation, Zhang Wei looked like he had eaten 10,000 tons of lemons. Jiang Xi, just you wait. I will enter sooner or later. Zhang Wei was unwilling to admit defeat. Jiang Xi laughed. He could see that Zhang Wei was working very hard. Perhaps he really had a chance to enter one of the 4 major training camps. Of course, it might be difficult to enter the heaven-level training camp, but there was still hope for the other 3. Now, he had a rough understanding of the conditions to enter the heaven-level training camp. In addition to the necessary quota, the student must be under the age of 20 and be at least D class. After the meal, Jiang Xi, Wang Dalong, and the others dealt with the materials of the monsters hunted in Ruin 073. After half a month of hunting, they earned a total of 980 million new moon dollars. The main reason was that the last silver-striped red python was very valuable. Riverward already knew that the Berserk Dragon Squad was about to disband. Under his request, the last harvest was split equally between everyone. Wang Dalong and the others could not resist Jiang Xi's request and could only accept it. After the split, each person received 245 million new moon dollars. Wang Dalong, Lu Hao, and Tian Chifeng were all very emotional. Ever since Jiang Xi joined the Mad Dragon Squad, their income soared. In just half a year, their income was equivalent to more than 10 years of their income. New Moon Year 93, January 20th, morning. The weather was slightly chilly. In the square of Genten Budokan, Paksun Province, Lu Kuei's plane was parked there, ready to take off. Jiang Duda seemed to have grown up a lot. There was no sign of the sadness of parting at all. She smiled and said, "Brother, be careful. Don't get hurt. Most importantly, don't forget to call me. Otherwise, you know the consequences. Most importantly, don't hook up with women outside, especially those vixens." Although Jiang Duda was smiling like a flower, Jiang Xi felt a chill in his bones from her last sentence. Am I that kind of person? Jiang Xi could not help but roll his eyes. You're not, but you are a vixen. Jiang Duda maintained her smile. Jiang Xi was speechless for a while. Then, he said with a serious expression, You too. After I leave, you must eat well, study well, and train well. Most importantly, don't watch too many horror movies in the middle of the night. Don't treat me like a parent. Jiang Duda glared at him, and her smile disappeared. Jiang Xi scratched his head and turned his gaze to Jiangxing beside him. He smiled and said, Uncle Jiang, I'll have to trouble you to take care of Dauda for me in the future. Haha, don't worry. I'll treat her like my own daughter. Jiangxing laughed. Jiang Duda did not refute this time and remained silent. Zhang Wei, work hard. I'll be waiting for you in the training camp. Don't pull your legs. Jiang Xi smiled at Zhang Wei. Don't look down on me. Zhang Wei was annoyed. At this time, Lu Kuei shouted from afar. Jiang Xi, everyone's here. It's time to go. Jiang Xi took a deep breath and rubbed Jiang Duda's hair. He squeezed out a smile and said, I'm leaving. Oh. Jiang Duda lowered her head. After that, Jiang Xi waved his hand and strode toward the transport plane without looking back. In front of the transport plane, besides Lu Kuei, Chen Yuan, and Lu Shan, there were 3 other young men. When Jiang Xi got closer, his eyes focused. He had seen one of the 3 young men before. Qin Feng. Chapter 87. Qin Feng only looked at Jiang Xi coldly with disdain in his eyes. It seemed that he already knew that Jiang Xi was going to the Genten Budokan headquarters. Jiang Xi did not mind and smiled gently. They were all adults. They had to be more mature and put on more pretenses. Last time, Lu Shan reminded him that Qin Feng was a little cunning, and he had to be more careful. Then, everyone followed Lu Kuei and boarded the transport plane. The great transport plane whistled and soared into the sky. Facing the morning sun, it turned into a stream of light and disappeared quickly. Jiang Daoda stood there with her head lowered. When she heard the roaring sound of the transport plane, she suddenly raised her head. Her eyes were red and filled with tears. In the past, Jiang Xi would go to the wilderness for a month. She didn't feel too reluctant because Jiang Xi didn't go far and could go home at any time. This time, she would be far away from Jiang Xi and be separated for a long time. Almost 10,000 miles away. There was only one holiday every year. The next time they met would be during the New Year. In fact, these few days she had thought of trying to go to the Genten Budokan headquarters with Jiang Xi. But in the end, she gave up because she did not want to live in Jiang Xi's shadow. She wanted to walk side by side with Jiang Xi. Jiang Xing put his hand on Jiang Daoda's shoulder and sighed softly. He did not say anything to comfort her. He believed that Jiang Daoda could adjust. However, what surprised him was that after the transport plane disappeared, Jiang Daoda suddenly raised her hand to wipe away her tears. Her eyes quickly became firm. Uncle Jiang, I want to go for training. Jiang Daoda looked serious. Jiang Xing and Zhang Wei looked at each other. Wasn't this adjustment too fast? The distance from Paksun province to the Genten Budokan headquarters was more than 9,000 li. This transport plane was very fast, with an average speed of 4,000 kilometers per hour. It would arrive at the Genten Budokan headquarters in a little over an hour. On the transport plane, Lu Kuei was resting with his eyes closed. Jiang Xi and Qin Feng were quite far from each other. While the other 2 youths were quite casual, no one said anything. After flying for more than half an hour, one of the young men with a resolute face suddenly walked up to Jiang Xi and smiled. Hello, Jiang Xi. I saw you from afar during the last warrior combat assessment. I didn't expect you to improve so quickly. You are indeed the genius that President He and Commander Zhao named. It has only been half a year, and you already have rank D combat strength. Jiang Xi was stunned. This person was very friendly, but he didn't know him. During the warrior combat assessment? Hello, we haven't met before, right? The resolute young man smiled and nodded. Then, he said seriously, You haven't met me before. Let me introduce myself. I am Zhou Xing, the Deputy Battalion Commander of the 1st Battalion of the Northern Mountain Army's 1st Army Military Brigade. My military rank is Captain. Jiang Xi was in awe and stood up. No wonder he felt the iron-blooded aura of a soldier from Zhou Xing just now. Hello, Battalion Commander Zhou. Haha, we are not in the military camp. You can just call me by my name. Speaking of which, you should know someone. Do you remember her? Zhou Xing smiled and said. Jiang Xi showed a puzzled expression. Do you remember Han Ningxue, who came in first in the last warrior combat assessment? She is my junior sister, and she is also a genius. The world was so small. You know junior sister Han too? To everyone's surprise, the other delicate and pretty youth who had been silent all this while suddenly opened his mouth in surprise. For a moment, everyone was stunned. Even Lu Kuei, who was sitting in the front with his eyes closed, opened his eyes in surprise. The world was really small. My name is Yen Chao. I am a fourth-year student of the Hokuzen Budo Academy's combat faculty. I have met junior sister Han many times and have a good relationship with her. The young man was a little shy and did not speak. If it were not for this topic, he might not have spoken along the way. Jiang Xi patted his forehead. He was a little confused. This was too much of a coincidence. He subconsciously glanced at Qin Feng. This handsome and sinister person also knew Han Ningxue. This meant that the four people who set off for the Genten Budokan headquarters this time were all related to Han Ningxue. If this stubborn girl was in a novel, she would definitely have the life of a main character. Humph! Qin Feng snorted coldly. At the mention of Han Ningxue, he was filled with hatred for Jiang Xi. Ever since he met Han Ningxue at that restaurant, he had not seen Han Ningxue for more than half a month in Paksun province. Han Ningxue was one of the best among the younger generation of the various reclusive families in the Xia kingdom. She was beautiful and was valued by many people. The Qin and Han families had a long history among the reclusive families. They had extraordinary backgrounds and placed great emphasis on cultivating bloodlines. The two families also had the intention to let him and Han Ningxue walk together and form a strong alliance. Therefore, Qin Feng had always regarded Han Ningxue as his own. It was impossible to say that he liked Han Ningxue. After all, they had only interacted a little when they were young. Strictly speaking, he only had a possessive desire for Han Ningxue. Jiang Xi's existence and Han Ningxue's attitude made Qin Feng burn with jealousy. Some time ago, he wanted to suppress and deal with Jiang Xi through the Warriors Supervision Bureau of Paksun Province. But in the end, due to some irresistible force, this plan was abandoned. You're lucky. When we get to the training camp, everyone will rely on their own abilities. Without protection, you can only wait for death, Qin Feng thought bitterly. On the other side, Zhou Xing and Yan Chao saw that Qin Feng was a little arrogant and had no interest in striking up a conversation with him. They just stayed with Jiang Xi. The three of them chatted and laughed, and soon became familiar with each other. After some understanding, Jiang Xi finally understood why people from the Northern Mountain Army and Hokuzen Budo Academy could also enter the Genten Budokan training camp. It turned out that the four main training camps of Genten Budokan were open to the public. As long as one was a citizen of the Xia kingdom, they were qualified to enter. This was especially true for the army. Every year, the prefectural city would reserve a quota for military martial artists. Zhou Xing and Yan Chao were both D-level martial artists. Moreover, they were 20 years old and had outstanding talent. They met the requirements to enter the heaven-level training camp. When the two of them found out that Jiang Xi still had to pass the test to enter the heaven-level training camp, they both gave him encouragement. Jiang Xi also thanked them one by one. The transport plane flew very smoothly. There were no bumps or noises. When flying in the wilderness, it was inevitable to encounter flying monsters. Ordinary planes might be dangerous. However, this transport plane could fly unscrupulously in the wilderness. This was because it was the most advanced transport plane. Whether it was flying or fighting, it was top-notch. The only possible danger was that it would encounter flying A-level monsters. Of course, with Lu Kuei around, ordinary A-level monsters would not dare to invade. Soon, the transport plane began to descend. We're almost there. Jiang Xi and the others also stopped talking and looked out the window. They could only see a white mountain range that stretched across the land like a long dragon. It was impossible to see the end of it. This should be the Kunlun Mountains, right? Yan Chao exclaimed. The legendary sacred mountain! Zhou Xing's eyes lit up. Chapter 88. On the plateau, long snow-colored dragons seemed to be rushing into the sky. It was a spectacular sight. Riverward's heart was also in turmoil. It was because he had visited this plateau before in the olden era. Even though the scenery at that time made one feel relaxed and happy, it wasn't as shocking as it was now. The Kunlun Mountains in the Spirit Chi Revival era was more like a fairyland. It was still winter, but there were many lush forests between the snow-capped mountains. It was mysterious and majestic. The headquarters of Genten Budokan is located on the plateau in the south of the Kunlun Mountains, near Qingnan Prefecture. It is called Xiantian City, which is equivalent to a small prefecture city. The strongest man in the world, Xiantian, used his powerful strength to intimidate the monsters on the plateau and forcibly carved out a habitat for the human race. Yan Chao was from the academic school, so he remembered the theoretical knowledge very well. Yes, if it weren't for the small population of Xiantian City, with only 10 million residents, the Xia kingdom might have been able to claim that it has 8 prefectures. Zhou Xing sighed. Among the 4 of them, only Jiang Xi was a Genten Budokan martial artist. However, he knew very little about this background. Riverward kept nodding his head as he listened to their conversation. The Western Plateau was not like the 7 prefectures, where the living conditions were suitable. The living conditions here were more harsh, so the population was much smaller. On the other side, Qin Feng leaned against the corner of the wall with a look of disdain. What do you guys know? Although Xiantian City has the smallest population, it is second only to Shuntian Prefecture in terms of the number of martial artists and powerhouses. The harsher the environment, the more it can train one's willpower and strength. Therefore, the ratio of martial artists in Xiantian City is very high, and the probability of powerhouses appearing is also very high. This is also the reason why Genten Budokan has so many powerhouses. As LV spoke, he stood up and stretched his back. The 4 of them were silent and listened obediently. Jiang Xi thought that part of the reason why Xiantian City was so strong must have something to do with Genten Budokan. After all, this was the headquarters of Genten Budokan. There were many strong people here. Just by distributing some resources to the Xiantian City, many martial artists would be able to soar. Soon, the Xiantian City came into view. It was a huge city that was one size smaller than Paksun Province. Located on a plateau, Xiantian City was also surrounded by a tall city wall to fend off the monsters in the wilderness. The transport plane did not stop in Xiantian City. Instead, it continued to fly deeper into the plateau. Jiang Xi and Zhou Xing were surprised. Not entering the city? The training camp is outside the city. You must remember that we are here to improve our strength, not to enjoy ourselves, Lu Kui said solemnly. Jiang Xi, Zhou Xing, and Yan Chao nodded solemnly. Only Qin Feng still had a look of disdain on his face. After a while, the transport plane slowly landed. After getting off the plane, they saw a small town. They were now in the town square. On the left was the residential area. There were exquisite villas and apartments. On the right was the functional area. There were shopping malls and restaurants. In front of the town square, there were 4 huge buildings. They were very similar to the 3 huge buildings in Genten Budokan in Paksun Province. Of course, the buildings here looked more majestic. There were very few people in the town. Even if there were 1 or 2, they were in a hurry. At most, they would bow to Lu Kui, then look at Jiang Xi and the others curiously before leaving. Chang Qing, come here! Lu Kui shouted to a young man who was passing by. The young man named Chang Qing, who was wearing a short-sleeved shirt and had a strong body, trotted over. Greetings, Chief Instructor! Chang Qing bowed respectfully. He was neither servile nor overbearing, and he did not hide his aura. So strong! Zhou Xing and Yan Chao were shocked. This young man, who looked about their age, was actually a B-class martial artist. Jiang Xi was also surprised. Although he had the combat power of a B-class martial artist, it was due to the experience panel. Chang Qing did not have such conditions. He was only in his 20s, and he was already a B-class martial artist. Such strength, if placed in the martial arts world of Paksun Province, would be in the top 10. Think about Lu Shan, who was in his 40s and had just broken through to B-class. He must be a genius trainee from the heaven-level training camp, Jiang Xi guessed. At this moment, he put away his contempt. Originally, he only came for the resources of the heaven-level training camp. He did not care about the trainees inside. It seemed that he had to take this seriously. It would be embarrassing if he were to fail because of his underestimation of him. As expected, Lu Kuei said, "Take these 3 juniors and report to the Heaven-level training camp." They were indeed trainees from the Heaven-level training camp. The 3 juniors were Qin Feng, Zhou Xing, and Yan Chao. They were the ones who had been accepted into the Heaven-level training camp. Although Yan Chao was shy, after everyone became familiar with each other, he became more open and encouraged Jiang Xi. "Jiang Xi, do your best." "Haha, I believe that Jiang Xi will definitely pass the test and pass the 3rd stage of Lingwan Road." Zhou Xing laughed. He had seen Jiang Xi's amazing performance in the martial artist combat assessment, and he had full confidence in Jiang Xi. "Okay, after I pass, I'll treat you two to a meal." Jiang Xi chuckled. Chang Qing was still a little puzzled by their conversation, but when he heard this, he looked at Jiang Xi in surprise. Was this junior also a trainee of the Heaven-level training camp? But why did he want to pass the 3rd stage of Lingwan Road? Speaking of which, this junior was really confident. Half of the trainees in the Heaven-level training camp had not passed this stage yet. He wanted to pass the 3rd stage as soon as he arrived? However, he did not ask. There were many people who were blindly confident, and they would eventually be hammered by reality. On the side, Qin Feng still kept a distance from everyone, looking slightly arrogant. Listening to the conversation between Jiang Xi and the others, the disdain in his heart grew stronger. Then, Chang Qing left with the 3 of them. Lu Kuei looked at Jiang Xi and said, "Now you're the only one left. I hope you can pass the 3rd stage of Lingwan Road like they said. Let's go, I'll take you to Lingwan Road now." The 3rd stage of Lingwan Road. Jiang Xi was curious and expectant. After talking for so long, what was Lingwan Road? What was so magical about it? Was it an illusion? Jiang Xi followed Lu Kuei and came to the front of the 4 giant buildings in front of the square. Genten Budokan branches all over the country have similar giant buildings, but there are some differences here. These 4 buildings correspond to the 4 major training camps. They are Tianyuan Pavilion, Dianyuan Pavilion, Xianyuan Pavilion, and Huangyuan Pavilion. Each of them has many facilities related to cultivation. It is where the trainees of each training camp usually train and improve. Among them, Lingwan Road is in Tianyuan Pavilion. If you can successfully enter the Heaven-level training camp, you will have to come to Tianyuan Pavilion often in the future. Lu Kuei introduced with a smile. Jiang Xi observed carefully. Tianyuan Pavilion covered a large area, with only 3 floors. However, the height of each floor was much higher, and the architectural style was different from ordinary buildings. It seemed to be piled up with huge stones. Walking into the 1st floor, there was no reception hall, only a large training field. In the deepest part, there was a 3-meter-high stone pillar platform. Vaguely, the stone pillar platform looked very simple. Chapter 89. In the training field, Jiang Xi saw only one student practicing martial arts. Whoosh whoosh, not far away, a bare-chested brawny man wielded a large saber in his hand. The saber flashed, and every slash shook the air. The power was astonishing. He was so focused that he did not notice Jiang Xi and Lu Kuei. Very strong. It should be an advanced saber technique that has reached the minute subtlety realm. This person's strength is at least B class. Jiang Xi was shocked. He had encountered 2 Heaven-level training camp students in a row, and both of them had reached B class. Lu Kuei smiled. The 1st floor is the combat center. It's a place to practice martial arts and engage in combat. However, very few people come here to practice martial arts. Jiang Xi nodded slightly. It was normal. He would do the same. Martial arts were everyone's trump card. Very few martial artists were willing to practice martial arts in public. That way, others would be able to see through them. If you can successfully enter the Heaven-level training camp, you will slowly understand these facilities in the future. Let's go to the 2nd floor. Lingwan Road is there. Lu Kuei did not want to waste time. Jiang Xi only smiled. Judging from Lu Kuei's tone, he did not have high hopes for him. There was a large enclosed room on the 2nd floor. Outside the room was a row of sofas for resting. At this moment, someone was using it. He needed to wait for a while. Jiang Xi looked around and then focused his attention on the enclosed room. This room seemed to be very private. There were no windows, and the door was very thick. The whole thing was black. Lingwan Road is inside. Because it is one of the most valuable items in the training camp, its defense level is very high. This door is made of A-class alloy and is 1 meter thick, Lu Kuei said proudly. A-class alloy. 1 meter thick. Riverward was completely stunned. How fucking extravagant. The defense level was not only high, it was simply abnormal. A-class alloy was the raw material used to forge A-class weapons. The A-grade Shadow's Lair sword, including the hilt, was only 1.3 meters long. How much was it worth? Jiang Xi had checked the price in the Xiantian shopping center. 30 billion new moon dollars. The door in front of him was a sliding door with a height of 5 meters, a width of 3 meters, and a thickness of 1 meter. How many Shadow's Lair swords could he make? After setting up a stall and selling vegetables for so many years, Jiang Xi believed that his mental arithmetic ability was not bad. But now, he suddenly couldn't calculate the value of this door. Its value could no longer be described as hundreds of billions. 1 trillion? 10 trillion? Then, how valuable was the Lingwan Road in this room? Jiang Xi felt a sense of suffocation coming from his defense. He was unable to speak. Beside him, Lu Kuei chuckled. To be honest, he had been depressed ever since he met Jiang Xi. He had been in charge of the 4 great training camps for many years, but he had never seen someone like Jiang Xi. When other geniuses heard that it was an opportunity to train in the heavenly training camp, they were excited and couldn't wait. But Jiang Xi's reaction was cold. He actually wanted to consider it. At that time, if not for Qingyuan smoothing things over, he would have flicked his sleeves and left. Later, even when Jiang Xi agreed, Lu Kuei found that Jiang Xi's reaction was very calm. There was no excitement or surprise. If not for the fact that he had seen Jiang Xi's information and knew that Jiang Xi's grades were good, he would have suspected that he had recruited a retard. Now, Jiang Xi was finally shocked. Lu Kuei was in a good mood. It was even better than killing an A-grade monster. Rumble. The door made of A-grade alloys slowly opened. A petite female student walked out. When she saw Jiang Xi and Lu Kuei, she was obviously stunned. "Greetings, Chief Instructor!" She quickly bowed. "Hello?" Lu Kuei only nodded. Then, he led Jiang Xi in and the door slowly closed. The female student didn't leave. Her pretty face revealed a thoughtful expression. "The Chief Instructor is personally leading the way. Are they new students?" "That's right. Looking at the time, some of the new students of the Heavenly Training Camp should have arrived." "No, it's not the time for the new students to take their first Lingwan Road assessment." She shook her head again. "This has never happened before. Since I have nothing to do, let's take a look first." She sat down on the sofa in the resting area with great interest. Inside the room, Jiang Xi was stunned. He was shocked again. "What? This is Lingwan Road?" In the middle of the room, there was a huge rock that was about 3 meters tall. The rock had 4 sides. 3 of them were vertical, and the last one was a slope. The so-called Lingwan Road was on this huge slope. There were a total of 9 steps. In other words, these 9 steps were chiseled out of this rock. Looking at the other 3 sides of the rock, they were actually very smooth. It was as if someone had cut them with a knife. It was very uncoordinated. "Are you disappointed?" Lu Kuei asked with a smile. Jiang Xi nodded. He was indeed very disappointed. After all this time, it was actually just ordinary stone steps. Moreover, he vaguely felt that the entire rock had been dug out from somewhere else. "Feel it carefully with your heart," Lu Kuei said again. "Feel it with my heart?" Jiang Xi was puzzled. He carefully observed the huge rock in front of him. The rock and the surface of the steps seemed to have suffered the ravages of time, and could be weathered away at any time. "Something's not right," It's a little unusual. Jiang Xi calmed down and became serious. After looking at it for a long time, he suddenly felt a kind of simple charm. The chief instructor once said that in this era, the more simple something looks, the more you can't underestimate it. Lu Kuei said with a smile. The chief instructor said that? Jiang Xi was startled. Wasn't that what the world's strongest person, Xian Tian, said? It seemed to make sense. It is said that the chief instructor and senior Li Bai found Lingwan Road in a mysterious place. Li Bai, senior Li Bai, and the others didn't like these ordinary stone steps. However, the chief instructor noticed the difference and directly carried it back. Lu Kuei seemed to be reminiscing. His words made Jiang Xi fall into silence. He felt that it wasn't that simple. Was he sure that the chief instructor didn't use a knife to cut it down? Then what's the matter with the illusion? Jiang Xi was very curious about this. As for the origin of Lingwan Road, he estimated that he wouldn't be able to figure it out in a short time. It was better to go back to the present. He had to pass the Lingwan Road assessment first. It's similar to a mythical method. When people stand on the steps, their spiritual consciousness will fall into a specific illusion. The so-called Lingwan Road assessment is to pass the trial in the illusion. Lu Kuei explained with a smile. Jiang Xi let out a long breath. His thoughts were a little messy. Mythical method, the illusion trial. Lu Kuei continued. You will know this when you climb the steps. Let's talk about the content of the illusion trial first. Lingwan Road has 9 steps. Each step has an illusion. The next 3 steps are a stage. You have to pass the 3rd step, which is the first stage. In the illusion, you are a trial taker. The target of the trial is 100 monsters of the same realm as your body. Your mission is to kill these 100 monsters. Hearing this, Jiang Xi was really relieved. His body realm was D-class, but his actual combat power was B-class. He had never encountered a group of 100 D-class monsters before. Jiang Xi estimated that the overall strength should be about the same as the 2-headed demon wolf group he encountered in ruin number 09 last time. At that time, he had escaped to his limit and was in a very sorry state. But it was different now. His actual combat power was at least 10 times stronger than when he was in ruin number 09. He was still confident that he could destroy a group of 100 D-class monsters. Lu Kuei saw that Jiang Xi was very calm again and shook his head. Don't be careless. The monsters in the illusion are somewhat different from the monsters in the wilderness. Their attacks are very mysterious. If measured by the realm of martial arts, the monsters in the illusion of the first 3 steps are all at the realm of small mastery of advanced martial arts. Jiang Xi's expression changed. Normal D-class monsters were easy to deal with. But if the monster's attack was at the realm of small mastery of advanced martial arts, then its strength was not simple. In other words, each of these monsters was comparable to a normal C-class monster. The difficulty of this trial was more than 10 times higher than he had imagined. Abnormal. Chapter 90. The official trainees of the Heaven-level training camp are all geniuses, but there are still a dozen trainees wandering between the 1st and 2nd steps of Lingwan Road. What does this mean? This trial is not simple. Lu Kuei reminded him again. Stand barefoot on the 1st step and close your eyes to enter the dreamscape. Remember, you only have 1 chance. If you fail, you can only enter the Earth-level training camp. Normally, with his status, he wouldn't have reminded so much and would have directly asked Jiang Xi to go up for the trial. He did this out of kindness, and also because he thought highly of Jiang Xi. Jiang Xi took a deep breath to calm himself down, then took off his shoes and socks, took a few steps forward, and walked to the huge rock. Without hesitation, he lifted his foot and stepped on the 1st step. After standing on the 1st step, the soles of his feet didn't feel anything special. If he really had to describe it, it would be that his feet felt cold. Jiang Xi gently closed his eyes. In an instant, his spiritual consciousness spun. After calming down, he opened his eyes again. It's so real! Jiang Xi was shocked. In front of him was an endless prairie, with a blue sky without a single cloud. This illusory space looked no different from reality. At this moment, he was standing on a white jade platform. Next to him was a tall stone pillar with words written on it: Name, Jiangxi, age 18, strength, Dialing Wan Road level 1. Seeing this, Jiangxi felt very strange. Lingwan Road was obviously not a product of this era, so why was it expressed in such a modern way? Moreover, it even knew his name. Perhaps there was some secret behind it. Jiangxi guessed in his heart. Trial participant, the trial will begin in 1 minute. Please choose your weapon. At this moment, a clear female voice sounded in the dreamscape. Along with this voice, various weapons began to appear in front of Jiangxi. What made Jiangxi feel strange was that these weapons looked very old, like ancient weapons. That sword! Jiangxi chose a sword that was very similar to the killer's shadow sword. The long sword appeared in Jiangxi's hand. He swung it lightly. He didn't know what material it was made of, but its weight was just right. It felt good. Participant, please kill 100 D-grade Herculean demonic apes within an hour. 100 curly-haired gorillas appeared out of thin air 1,000 meters away on the grassland in front of him, all of them ferocious. Killing 100 in an hour is very difficult. Jiangxi calmed himself down and tightened his grip on his sword. Although this is an illusory realm and I'm the only one here, I can't use the wind shadow steps at full strength just in case. He wasn't sure if others could see the situation in the illusion from the outside. After all, some of the things in the illusion looked very modern. Jiangxi warned himself not to let down his guard before he was sure that he was strong enough to face Fengxian. Let the trial begin! The crisp female voice rang out once more. Roar! 100 Herculean demonic apes roared as they charged forward with great momentum. D-grade monsters only have half the speed of sound. To deal with them, I only need to display a speed close to the speed of sound. Jiangxi's figure was graceful, and his speed reached 300 meters per second. In less than 2 seconds, he met the mighty Herculean demonic apes head-on. Roar! Woo! 100 Herculean demonic apes, each of them more than 3 meters tall, attacked Jiangxi in a frenzy. Their arms were very long, and when they swung their arms, they were like 2 sturdy, thick sticks that whistled through the air. They seemed to be using some kind of staff technique, and it was somewhat mysterious. However, Jiangxi was even faster. His body was like a phantom, and his sword was as fast as lightning. The 9-elemental sword technique, which had just entered the Unity realm, gave him more than 6 times the strength, allowing his strength to explode in an instant. Even if he didn't use the wind shadow steps at full strength, his combat power was close to B-grade just by using his sword technique. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, the long sword accompanied Jiangxi's figure and swept past the neck of the nearest Herculean demonic ape. The Herculean demonic ape's neck was almost cut off. Its huge head tilted uncontrollably to one side, and blood splashed out a few meters away. After that, Jiangxi moved a few steps to the side, dodging the attacks of the surrounding Herculean demonic apes, and the long sword attacked again. Stab! Sweep! Chop! This long sword, which was similar to the killer shadow sword, was very easy to use. Every move of the 9-elemental sword technique was displayed incisively and vividly, coupled with the speed close to the speed of sound. Jiangxi's whole person seemed to be dancing in a group of beasts. The sword flashed, and blood splashed around him. The Herculean demonic apes, which were good at strength and defense, had no power to fight back in front of Jiangxi. Wherever Jiangxi passed, only the huge Herculean demonic apes' corpses were left behind. Congratulations, you used 19 minutes to pass the first trial of Lingwan Road. The clear female voice in the illusion space sounded again. That's it. Jiangxi was not satisfied. After the 9-elemental sword technique reached the Unity realm, this was the first time he used it with all his strength. The excitement of killing was gone. 19 minutes, not bad. Jiangxi nodded slightly. However, to his disappointment, killing the monsters in the illusion did not give him any experience points. It seemed that only by killing real life could he get experience points. Before he could summarize the gains and losses of the battle, the illusion space suddenly changed, and the sky and earth spun again. When he opened his eyes again, he had already left the illusion. You have passed the first trial of Lingwan Road, experience points plus 5,000. At this time, the prompt of the experience points panel suddenly sounded in his ears. Jiang Xi was stunned. In the distance, Lu Kuei found that Jiang Xi opened his eyes and was shocked. You passed the first trial so quickly? He was the chief instructor of the training camp. Of course, he knew the difficulty of the first trial of Lingwan Road. The Herculean demonic ape was difficult to deal with. It had high defense and great strength. Many of the heaven-level training camp's new trainees failed Lingwan Road for the first time. Even if they could pass, it would take them at least 40 minutes. But Jiang Xi passed it in less than 20 minutes. What is he doing standing there? Lu Kuei was surprised, but he was also a little puzzled. At this time, Jiang Xi should be on the second step. In fact, Jiang Xi was also very surprised at this time. What was the origin of Lingwan Road? Or rather, what was the origin of the experience points panel? Was there a connection between the two? Passing Lingwan Road could give experience points, and it was so rich, 5,000 experience points. Since the activation of the experience points panel, there had never been such a large amount of experience points in a single go. For the first time, Jiang Xi felt that coming to the heaven-level training camp was the right choice. After shaking his head and reorganizing his emotions, Jiang Xi stepped on the second step of Lingwan Road barefoot. He closed his eyes. After a moment of dizziness, he appeared in the illusion again. It was still a grassland, and he stood on a white jade platform. But the handwriting on the tall stone pillar next to him had changed. Name, Jiang Xi, age 18, strength, D-Class Lingwan Road, 2. Jiang Xi chose his long sword again and waited quietly. What were the trial monsters in the illusory space of the second step? After a while, a clear female voice sounded. Trial taker, please kill 100 D-Class White Wind Demon Tigers within an hour. White Wind Demon Tiger. Jiang Xi was stunned. It was very familiar. Chapter 91. Whoosh. In the illusory space, a fierce wind blew, and 100 huge wind demon white tigers appeared out of thin air on the grassland in front of Jiang Xi. The wind demon white tiger's body was white, but its tiger stripes were black. Monsters that are skilled in movement techniques and speed? Jiang Xi fell into deep thought. The 9 elements sword art he practiced was created by Li Bai, the world's second strongest martial artist, after observing the wind fiend white tiger. Because of this, he had specifically looked up information on the white tiger. The speed of a D-class monster was usually around 150 meters per second. The Herculean demonic ape just now was at this level. As for the D-grade wind demon white tiger, which specialized in speed, its speed exceeded 200 meters per second. It's even harder to deal with than the Herculean demonic ape. Jiang Xi's attention was even more focused. The trial begins. Accompanied by a clear female voice, Jiang Xi leaped lightly, as fast as lightning, towards the 100 wind demon white tigers. Roar! Although there was no forest, the wind demon white tiger still displayed the aura of a king among beasts. They all rushed towards Jiang Xi, the wind howling. Swish swish, its long tiger tail, like a long sword, instantly straightened and swept towards Jiang Xi. So fast! Jiang Xi's figure moved swiftly, barely dodging these attacks. Tiger-type monsters had 3 ways to attack: pounce, lift, and scissor. What surprised Jiang Xi was that there was actually some charm of the 9 elements sword technique in the scissoring attack of the tiger tail. No, it's not the 9 elemental sword art. It's a quick sword move that's similar to the 9 elemental sword art. Jiang Xi quickly understood. Then let's have a battle of quick swords. In the face of the fierce attacks of the white tigers, Jiang Xi quickly responded. He still maintained his movement speed of 300 meters per second, but his sword moved even faster. Swish! Swish! The long sword danced in the air, and the misty sword shadow was like a sword beam, its power astonishing. When it landed on the wind demon white tiger, a fatal wound instantly appeared. Chi! Under Jiangxi's continuous attacks, the wind demon white tiger horde became chaotic. Although they were good at speed, their strength was limited. The highest speed they could reach was around 200 meters per second, which was not as fast as Jiangxi. Under the attacks of Jiangxi's long sword, they fell to the ground one after another. This was an absolute difference in strength. Even without using wind shadow steps at full strength, Jiangxi's 9 elemental swordplay alone was close to a Class B's combat power. The Wind Fiend White Tiger's defense is much weaker, so it's easier to kill it. A quarter of an hour later, Jiangxi abruptly stopped. There was not a single living white wind tiger in front of him. Congratulations, you've passed the second trial of Lingwan Road in 15 minutes. Riverward's expression was indifferent. Outside the illusory world, Lu Kuei stood there quietly, thinking. The second stage illusion monster of Lingwan Road was the wind demon white tiger, which was good at speed. It was famous for being difficult to deal with. Many of the students in the heaven-level training camp had failed to pass the second stage in 2 or 3 years. He believed that Jiangxi could pass the second stage, but he was still prepared to wait for more than half an hour. Lu Kuei's eyes suddenly widened. He passed again. He's even faster than the first stage. What kind of monster is this kid? Lu Kuei could no longer keep calm. Other people passed Lingwan Road slower and slower, but Jiangxi was faster and faster. He was now certain that Jiangxi could definitely pass the third stage of Lingwan Road. On the other side, after Jiangxi's consciousness came out of the second illusion, the same experience points notification sounded again. You have passed the second stage of Lingwan Road, experience points plus 10,000. Phew, Jiangxi took a deep breath, suppressing the surprise in his heart. What was the background of Lingwan Road? The experience points it provided were too insane. If I can pass Lingwan Road every day, I won't have to go to the wilderness to hunt monsters anymore. I'll get a lot of experience points just by staying in the training camp. Jiangxi fantasized. He lifted his foot and stepped on the third stage. This was the most important stage. If he passed it, he would be an official student of the heaven-level training camp the world spun, and Jiangxi once again appeared in the illusion space. After finishing his preparations, a clear female voice sounded. Participant, please kill 100 D-class red-shelled earthworms within an hour. Red-shelled earthworm? Jiangxi was shocked. The word dragon had too many mythical meanings. It could be said that any monster with a dragon in its name was not simple. For example, 40 years ago, on the other side of the ocean in the Dark Shadow Kingdom, a city was attacked by a monster horde. The leader of the horde was an A-class crypt flame dragon that wreaked havoc in the city, killing nearly 10 million residents. A-class crypt flame dragons were comparable to top A-class human fighters. They were very difficult to deal with. In the end, the Dark Shadow Kingdom sacrificed 2 A-class fighters in order to kill the powerful A-class crypt flame dragon. In front of Jiangxi's eyes, 100 huge red-shelled earthworms appeared. They had red scales and a long winding tail that swayed gently like a blade. When a red-shelled earthworm reaches A-class, it will become a crypt flame dragon. Information about the red-shelled earthworm appeared in Jiangxi's mind. This was a monster that had both strength, defense, and speed. Its attributes were perfect, and it had almost no weaknesses. Let the trial begin! This time, Jiangxi took the lead. Like lightning, a sword aura pierced towards the nearest red-shelled earthworm. Puchi! The sword aura pierced through the red-shelled earthworm's scales and went more than a foot deep. He could clearly feel that the difficulty of piercing through the red-shelled earthworm was much higher than the Herculean demonic ape and the white wind demon tiger. In other words, the red-shelled earthworm's defense was higher. However, under the premise that his strength was superior, Jiangxi could still deal with it. It was just that the speed of killing was much slower. Roar! The huge red-shelled earthworm's breath was filled with thick fog, and its temperature was very high. Dozens of blade-like long tails swept towards Jiangxi's. It was similar to a mysterious blade technique. Jiangxi's body turned continuously, dodging the attacks of the long tails. Bang! Jiangxi was hit by a few of the long tails. It was as if he was hit by a blade, and he flew out horizontally. He started to show signs of injury. Even though it was just an illusion, he still felt intense pain, and he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Damn, luckily it's not a real blade. Otherwise, my body would have been cut in half. Jiangxi relied on wind shadow steps to control his body. He endured the pain and continued to deal with the group of red-shelled earthworms. He did not know how much time had passed, but it was much longer than the previous two illusions. Congratulations, you used 31 minutes to pass the third stage of Lingwan Road's trial. When the voice of the illusion rang out, Riverward was panting as he stood on the corpse of a huge scarlet-shelled earthworm. One of his arms was drooping, and there was a shocking bloody hole in his stomach. A few of his ribs were also broken, and his injuries were serious. However, there were no longer any red-shelled earthworms alive. Damn, I almost flipped over. Riverward sat down. Without using his full speed, it was easy for him to be hit by the scarlet-shelled earthworm's attacks. Outside the illusion. When Jiangxi's time in the illusion exceeded 30 minutes, Lu Kuei heaved a sigh of relief. Seems like it's normal. Students who attempt the third stage of Lingwan Road for the first time usually take around 40 minutes. Subconsciously, he was actually worried that Jiangxi would pass the third stage of the illusion quickly as well. This familiar scene made Lu Kuei widen his eyes. He saw Jiangxi standing on the third stage of Lingwan Road. He opened his eyes, and because of the discomfort in his feet, he moved slightly. Only 31 minutes! Lu Kuei's heart was filled with shock. Chapter 92. You have passed the third trial of Lingwan Road. Experience plus 15,000. After the notification on the experience panel sounded, Jiangxi walked down Lingwan Road and did not continue to climb the next step. The difficulty of the illusory realm trial of Lingwan Road increases with each step. If the third step is already so difficult, the next step will definitely be even more difficult. Without fully utilizing the wind shadow steps, the possibility of passing the next step was very small. Jiangxi shook his head and decided not to think about it for the time being. He should celebrate because from this moment on, he was an official student of the heaven-level training camp. Lu Kuei walked over and congratulated. Welcome to the heaven-level training camp. Very official. Jiangxi smiled and asked, Senior Lu, can I challenge Lingwan Road at any time in the future? This was a crucial question. Lingwan Road provided too much experience. At any time? You are too greedy. Do you know how precious the opportunity to challenge Lingwan Road is? Lu Kuei did not know whether to laugh or cry. Jiangxi shook his head honestly. Lu Kuei smiled and said, After you officially enter the camp, you can go to the Xiantian forum on the dojo's intranet to find out more. Now, I will take you to the camp to stay. The A-grade alloy door opened, and Jiangxi and Lu Kuei walked out of the room on Lingwan Road. The two of them turned their heads at the same time to look at the resting area. The petite female student from before was sitting on a sofa with some astonishment. The two of them did not talk. Lu Kuei only nodded slightly and then left with Jiangxi. After the two of them left, the female student showed a puzzled expression. Is he really a new student? He stayed in there for more than an hour and passed the first step? If it's only the first step of Lingwan Road, it's not worth the chief instructor personally leading the way, right? She did not understand. Right, the heaven ranking. She used her tactical communications watch to log into the Xiantian forum. After checking some things, she was dumbfounded. Heaven Leaderboard 101? Jiangxi followed Lu Kuei to the villa area that he saw at the beginning. There was a stone tablet at the entrance of the residential area with the words, Tianyuan Residential Area. Written on it there was also a three-dimensional hologram beside the stone tablet, which attracted Jiangxi's attention. In the holographic projection, there was a list of names. Heavenly Ranking Rank 1, Yan Feng, Student Number 8905. Heavenly Ranking Number 2, Shu Qiqi, Student Number 9020. Heaven Ranking Number 3, Li Yanji, Student Number 8915. Heaven Ranking 17th, Chang Qing, Student Number 9106. Lu Kui noticed that Jiang Xi was looking at the holographic screen. He smiled and introduced. This is the Heaven list. It's ranked according to the actual combat results of the students in the Heaven level training camp. It's very useful for reference. Jiang Xi nodded slightly and looked down. He saw a familiar name at the end. Heavenly Ranking Number 84, Zhou Xing, Student Number 9304. Heavenly Ranking Number 85, Yan Chao, Student Number 9305. Heavenly Ranking Number 86, Qin Feng, Student Number 9306. Heavenly Ranking Number 101, Jiang Xi, Student Number 9321. What made Jiang Xi feel strange was that his ranking actually went from 86 to 101. Lu Kui seemed to have noticed Jiang Xi's confusion and explained. Every year, 20 senior students graduate from the Heaven level training camp, and 20 new students join. The current top 80 on the Heavenly ranking is ranked according to actual combat results after excluding the senior students who graduated. As for the rankings after the 80th, they are ranked according to the order in which the new students entered the camp. It has nothing to do with strength. The same goes for the student number. The first two represent the year in which they entered the camp, and the last two represent the order in which they entered the camp. Hearing this, Jiang Xi was even more confused. Then shouldn't I be ranked number 87 on the Heavenly ranking and student number 9307? Oh, you are a little special. Originally, only 20 new students were recruited every year. You are an exception. In order to not affect the students from other prefectural cities who come to the camp, you can only be ranked number 21. Haha, don't worry about the current ranking. Now that everyone is on vacation, the new school year has not officially begun. When the new school year begins next month, everyone will be ranked according to actual combat results. At that time, you can work hard and get a good ranking. At the end, Lu Kui laughed heartily. Jiang Xi was speechless for a moment. He felt like he was being raised by a stepmother. But what's the use of this ranking? Is it just to differentiate strength? Lu Kui said seriously. Of course it's useful. Everyone came to the training camp to improve their strength, but the cultivation resources are limited. It's impossible to distribute them equally to everyone. Take Lingwan Road for example. There's only one, so who can use it? Of course, it's for the strong. The ranking on the Heaven list is based on actual combat results. The higher the ranking, the more cultivation resources you can get. Of course, those who are ranked at the bottom will also be punished. There are 12 months in a year. Excluding the 2-month break during Chinese New Year, the remaining 10 months will be based on actual combat results. The students who are ranked at the bottom 5 will be eliminated to the Earth level training camp next year. Then, the top 5 of the Earth level training camp will replace them in the Heaven level training camp. Lu Kui explained with a serious expression. Jiang Xi nodded calmly. So this was the purpose of the Heaven list. The two of them walked into Tianyuan district. After walking for a while, they stopped in front of a detached villa. Tianyuan district is the dormitory of the Heaven level training camp. Originally, only 100 detached villas were planned. Later, the head of the training camp allowed us to build a few more. It seems like the head of the training camp had foresight. Otherwise, you would be living in a townhouse in Tianyuan district right now, Lu Kui said with a smile. Jiang Xi was silent. He was indeed an unplanned student. This is Villa 101. From now on, it will be your residence in the Heaven level training camp. Lu Kui led Jiang Xi inside. This villa was smaller than the one Jiang Xi had in Tongtian district in Paksun province. However, it was well equipped. There was even a training room. It was more than enough for one person to live in. After looking around, Lu Kui said, I'll take you here. If there's anything you don't understand, you can check the heaven-level training camp section of the Xiantian forum. I've already given you access. One last reminder. While there aren't many new students, you should hurry up and find a martial arts teacher online. Otherwise, when all the new students arrive, there will be a shortage of teachers. It will be difficult to find a suitable teacher then. Jiang Xi hurriedly thanked him. Thank you, Senior Liu. An A-rank powerhouse patiently accompanied him for half a day. This kind of treatment was rare. Haha, you are now an official student of the heaven-level training camp. Just like them, you can call me the head instructor. Yes, head instructor. At the same time, Jiang Xi, who was ranked 101st on the heaven-level ranking, was quickly known by all the major martial arts organizations in the world. Because the Genten Budokan heaven-level training camp had a fixed quota of 100 students every year. It was the first time a 101st had appeared. A special one. This was the first evaluation of Jiang Xi by all the major forces. Jianhai Prefecture, Mingxin Mountain Manor. In front of Feng Xian, detailed information about Jiang Xi appeared. It was almost the same as the information collected by Genten Budokan in Pak Sun Province. From Jiang Xi's rental in Apricot Flower Garden to today's appearance in the heaven-level training camp, he was ranked 101st on the heaven-level ranking. Feng Xian carefully checked Jiang Xi's information, not letting go of any details. Chapter 93. Feng Xian had suspected Jiang Xi before. After his son, Feng Xiaoqing, was killed, he issued a huge bounty through the Liberal Alliance. However, after investigating for so long, he did not get any results. After eliminating the few C-class martial artists as suspects, he focused on those with outstanding talent. During this process, he discovered Jiang Xi, the first genius in history to score full marks in martial arts talent. However, in the end, he also eliminated Jiang Xi as a suspect. This was because Jiang Xi had only been a martial artist for 4 months at that time. The possibility of killing a C-class martial artist with one strike was close to zero. In addition, there was the news that Jiang Xi's strength had reached D-class not long ago. This information allowed Feng Xian to basically confirm that Jiang Xi was not the murderer. However, now, Jiang Xi had actually entered the Genten Budokan heaven-level training camp. Feng Xian would rather kill the wrong person than let the wrong person go, so he retrieved Jiang Xi's information. A special one. Could you be my son's murderer? Feng Xian's eyes flashed coldly. A moment later, the leader of his personal guards, Old Yuan, walked in from outside. How is it? Did you find out? Feng Xian's voice was low. Old Yuan nodded and replied, Yes, according to the report of the Liberal Alliance's spies in the Genten Budokan headquarters, Jiang Xi passed the 3rd stage of Lingwan Road, which was why he was specially allowed to enter the heaven-level training camp. Is he good at speed? No, his speed was around 300 meters per second in the first 3 illusion trials. However, he is good at swordsmanship, and his attainments are very high. According to the spies, with his swordsmanship, his combat power is close to that of a B-class martial artist. Not good at speed, but good at swordsmanship. According to the information, 2 months ago, his combat power reached D-class, and now he is close to B-class. Was he hiding his strength before? And in just 2 short months? Feng Xian stared at Riverwood's image. Old Yuan hesitated and said, He is a genius with full marks for martial arts talent. Looking at his previous speed of improvement, it only took him 4 months to grow from a martial arts newbie to a D-class martial artist. Now, it took him another 2 months to go from D-class to B-class. I think it's normal. Moreover, young master was killed 3 months ago. At that time, Jiang Xi's strength was still far from enough. It took a lot of courage for Old Yuan to say these words, but as the leader of Feng Xian's personal guards and think tank, he had the responsibility to provide rational analysis and suggestions. After all, there were too many experts behind Jiang Xi. On the surface, Jiang Xi had no one to protect him. But after such a long investigation, he found that there was always an invisible net around Jiang Xi. The simplest point was that Jiang Xi was the first genius with full marks for martial arts talent since the Spirit Qi revival. During last year's Martial Sciences College entrance examination, the president of Pak Sun Province's Martial Arts Association pointed out Jiang Xi's name in front of everyone. The strange thing was, such a big commotion did not spread after that. If they did not deliberately investigate Jiang Xi, they would rarely notice Jiang Xi's existence. This was very abnormal. What shocked Old Yuan even more was that even with the Liberal Alliance's powerful intelligence network, they could not find any records of Jiang Xi before he was 13. There were only rumors that Jiang Xi was a street kid. Old Yuan did not believe this rumor at all. How could a street kid have the opportunity to come into contact with martial arts? With a serious attitude, he guessed that Jiang Xi might have an even more terrifying background. Old Yuan did not want his master to offend those experts behind the scenes because of Jiang Xi. Feng Xian shook his head. If Old Yuan could think of it, so could he. However, his son was dead. That was his only son. The person who could kill his son's bodyguard with one slash was either a Class B or a top Class C who excelled in speed. From the information he had obtained so far, Jiang Xi's characteristics were very similar to the murderer's. The only thing missing was his speed. If Jiang Xi was hiding his speed, then the answer was obvious. Feng Xian's eyes flashed coldly. Put him as the first suspect. Have someone keep an eye on him. Inform me immediately once you find out that he excels in speed. Old Yuan sighed in his heart. After Jiang Xi tidied up the villa, he entered the training room. He used the computer in the training room to log into Genten Budokan's internet. In the virtual light, 3 sections appeared: Xiantian Forum, Xiantian Shopping Center, and Personal Center. Jiang Xi clicked on Personal Center. In the information section, he found that his information in Genten Budokan had changed. Name: Jiang Xi. Gender: male, age 18, level Class D, bone honing stage, 101st on the Heaven Leaderboard. Affiliation: Genten Budokan Heaven Level Training Camp. Permissions: Lingwan Road once, Wondrous Rock Mountain once, Heaven Level Training Camp. Permanent access: Wondrous Rock Mountain? This was the first time Jiang Xi had seen such a term. It appeared at the same time as Lingwan Road. This means that its importance is about the same as Lingwan Road. In his confusion, Jiang Xi opened the Xiantian Forum. Perhaps he could find the answer there. In the forum, in addition to the various chat groups, there were also various answering posts. Jiang Xi noticed that there was now a new section, Heaven Level Training Camp. He clicked on it. In the Heaven Level Training Camp section, there were several sections: Heaven Leaderboard, Teaching, Trading, Lingwan Road, Wondrous Rock Mountain, etc. Jiang Xi opened the Heaven Leaderboard and found that it was a complete copy of the Heaven Leaderboard at the entrance to Tianyuan District. The rankings were the same. Let's take a look at the usage rules of Lingwan Road first. This was one of his main concerns. He opened the Lingwan Road section. There was an introduction and related forum posts. In the introduction, a line of eye-catching black words floated before Jiang Xi's eyes. There is an illusory space at every step of Lingwan Road. However, after successfully passing the trial, you will not be able to enter it again. Jiang Xi shook his head and smiled. As expected, there was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. If he could keep going through Lingwan Road, then he really would not have to do anything. He would just farm Lingwan Road EXP every day. At the end of the introduction, there was also the distribution rules for the usage of Lingwan Road. As Lu Kui had said, the distribution was based on the Heaven Leaderboard ranking. First on the Heaven Leaderboard, 30 chances next month. Second on the Heaven Leaderboard, 25 chances next month. Third on the Heaven Leaderboard, 20 chances next month. 61-80 on the Heaven Leaderboard, 3 chances next month. 81-100 on the Heaven Leaderboard, 1 chance next month. Note: each opportunity is limited to 2 hours. Jiang Xi was a little disappointed. He was now 101st on the Heaven Leaderboard, and he only had 1 chance next month. Sure enough, everything depended on strength. Next month, he would really have to compete for the Heaven leaderboard ranking. Then, Jiang Xi saw that there were several hot forum posts related to Lingwan Road at the bottom of the page. Since he had nothing to do, he opened them one by one and skimmed through them. One of the posts revealed information that Jiang Xi was very interested in. The content of the post said, "Most of the Heaven-level training camp students on Lingwan Road are at the 3rd and 4th stage. A small number of them are at the 1st and 2nd stage. Only the most outstanding students have the strength to reach the 5th and even the 6th stage. From everyone's experience on Lingwan Road, we can conclude that the illusory space trial is of great help to the comprehension and improvement of martial arts techniques. Some people even speculate that there may be several treasure-level high-level martial arts techniques hidden in the illusory space of Lingwan Road. When the trial taker reaches a higher stage on Lingwan Road, the probability of comprehending martial arts techniques in the corresponding illusory space trial is higher." Chapter 94. The content of the post made Jiang Xi think of something. When he first got the 9 Elements sword art, it was mentioned in the teaching light that the 9 Elements sword art was created by Li Bai and Bai Guan. According to Senior Lu, it was Senior Xian Tian, Senior Li Bai, and some others who found Lingwan Road at the same time. Could it be that Senior Li Bai got the 9 Elements sword art from Lingwan Road? After the understanding just now, Jiang Xi now knew the basic situation of Lingwan Road. The Spirit Cloud Path had 3 steps as a stage. In the first step, the monster in the illusion trial was the Herculean demonic ape, which was inclined to strength and defense. In the second step, the monster in the illusion trial was the wind demon white tiger, which was inclined to speed. In the third step, the monster in the illusion trial was the red-shelled earthworm, which had all the advantages of the first 2 steps. At this stage, the attacks of the 3 monsters were equivalent to the minor completion of advanced martial arts. In the next stage, from the 4th to the 6th, the 3 monsters were still in the same order. The only difference was that the attacks of the monsters were more mysterious, reaching the perfection of advanced martial arts. Then from the 7th to the 9th step, the attacks of the monsters also rose to the perfection of advanced martial arts. Jiang Xi recalled that the attacks of the 3 monsters in the illusion of Lingwan Road were indeed mysterious, like some kind of martial arts. If the 9 Elements sword art was really obtained from Lingwan Road by Senior Li Bai, then some of the secret rumors about Lingwan Road may not be so simple. After thinking for a while, Jiang Xi shook his head and put this speculation aside for the time being. With his current strength, it was difficult to explore the secrets. Later, Jiang Xi checked the column of Wonderful Stone Mountain. There was also a lot of information about Wondrous Rock Mountain, but the only thing that surprised Riverward was that Wondrous Rock Mountain could increase one's cultivation speed. This was the first time he heard that there was something that could improve the speed of cultivation since he started practicing martial arts. Then, Wonderful Rock Mountain's cultivation opportunities were distributed, just like Lingwan Road. It was also distributed according to the Heaven list's ranking. Even the number of times was the same. For example, Jiang Xi was now ranked 101 on the Heaven list. He had a chance to cultivate in Lingwan Road and Miaoshi Mountain respectively. What is Wondrous Stone Mountain like? A mountain? This was what Jiang Xi was curious about. However, he was just curious at most. Jiang Xi did not have much expectation for Wonderful Rock Mountain. He had the XP panel, so he didn't need to meditate too much. He just needed to give him experience points. Let's look at the teaching column and choose a martial arts teacher while we're at it. From Lu Kuei's tone, choosing a martial arts teacher was a very important matter. Jiang Xi was also clear about this point. A good teacher could help students avoid many detours. In the teaching column, he saw many martial arts teaching videos posted by the instructors of the Heaven-level training camp. They taught saber techniques, sword techniques, spear techniques, and so on. After casually clicking on a few and watching for a while, Jiang Xi was not interested in watching anymore. This was because the demonstrations and explanations of martial arts in the videos were very simple. Although some of the demonstrations were advanced martial arts, it was obvious that the instructors did not go into depth. Jiang Xi did not know that this was actually a misunderstanding of the instructors of the heaven-level training camp. After all, the two advanced martial arts he cultivated, the 9 elemental swordsmanship, was at the initial stage of unification, and the wind shadow step was close to perfection. Such a level had broadened his horizons. On the other hand, some of the other students in the heaven-level training camp had not even cultivated advanced martial arts. Even if they did, their realm might not be that high. And these teaching videos were targeted at this group of students. It seems that I still have to choose a martial arts teacher. Jiang Xi nodded lightly. Although he had the EXP panel, he still wanted to see the understanding of martial arts by other powerhouses. Only by pooling ideas and being good at learning could he make better progress. In the teaching column, there was a special selection function, where he could choose a martial arts teacher. After clicking on it, he could see a brief introduction of each instructor. Wu Dehua, Grade A martial artist, proficient in saber and fist techniques. Once killed a Grade A two-headed hellhound with 3 strikes. Shang Qi, Grade A martial artist, proficient in staff techniques. 30 years ago, when the Beast Tide invaded southern Green Prefecture, he alone blocked more than 10 Grade B monsters. Li Qin, Grade A martial artist, proficient in swordsmanship. The more Jiang Xi watched, the more shocked he became. There were a total of 23 instructors in the heaven-level training camp, and all of them were Grade A martial artists. This was the scariest part. And each of them had a battle that made them famous. If these instructors were placed in the 7 major prefectures of the Xia Empire, they would definitely be one of the best. Genten Budokan is indeed the world's #1 martial arts force. Just a heaven-level training camp, and there are already 23 Grade A martial artist instructors. How many powerhouses are there in the dark? Although he was shocked, Jiang Xi was somewhat distressed. He did not know which instructor to choose as his teacher. Out of the 23 instructors, 6 of them were proficient in swordsmanship. Looking at the introduction, none of them were weak. Should I just not choose? Jiang Xi shook his head. This idea was not practical. Everyone else had their own teachers. If he did not choose, it would be too abrupt. Being steady and low-key was his rule of survival. But randomly choosing one was not his style. Either he did not do it, or he did it to the best of his ability. Since he was going to choose, he would definitely choose the most suitable one. A martial arts teacher might be helpful in improving his understanding of martial arts. In the end, after pondering for a long time, Jiang Xi still could not make a decision. This was because he knew too little about these instructors. Just based on the introduction in the teaching column, it was useless. At this moment, Jiang Xi's tactical communications watch vibrated. Is it a call from Dodo? Jiang Xi smiled slightly. It's not. Jiang Xi was stunned for a moment. After checking, he found that it was a message from Zhou Xing. He, Zhou Xing, and Yan Chao had exchanged contact information on the transport plane. Dinner at the training camp's restaurant tonight? The participants are all students from Pak Sun Province. It looked like a Pak Sun Province Fellow Townsmen's Association. Jiang Xi thought about it and decided to participate. Maybe he could get some useful information from the old students. 7 o'clock in the evening. Jiang Xi arrived at a restaurant in the heaven-level training camp. At this time, there were already more than 10 people there. Everyone was talking and laughing. As soon as he entered, Jiang Xi saw Zhou Xing and Yan Chao. He smiled and walked over. I knew you could definitely pass the 3rd stage of Lingwan Road. Zhou Xing punched Jiang Xi's shoulder with his fist. The old students were also surprised and looked at Jiang Xi curiously. They had already learned from Zhou Xing that Jiang Xi had to pass the 3rd stage of Lingwan Road before he could join the heaven-level training camp. Jiang Xi, let me introduce you. This is our Pak Sun Province's big sister, Shu Qiqi, 7th sister. Zhou Xing led Jiang Xi to a quiet and beautiful woman. She was older. Her long hair reached her shoulders. She wore a casual white top and tight jeans. She had a good figure. Shu Qiqi. Jiang Xi couldn't help but take another look. Second on the heaven ranking. He didn't expect her to be from Pak Sun province. After the article was written, wow, a few trolls made my mind explode today. To be honest, we read novels for entertainment and for fun. If you don't like it, you can leave quietly. But why give a bad review? Some people only read one chapter and give a 1 star. I read it. Some people are white and have never spent money to read. I can understand that they don't have money, but can't they be a good person? If it wasn't for the fact that I've returned to being a Buddhist in recent years, I would have let you trolls experience what it means to be an Uchiha 1 versus 7 in the keyboard world. Do you believe that 1,000 trolls in a second? Okay, I'm done venting. I'm in a good mood. Good night, dear readers, except trolls. Chapter 95. Nice to meet you, seventh sister. Jiang Xi greeted her. Nice to meet you. Shuqiqi nodded and smiled. Her smile was very gentle, unlike the genius martial artist ranked second on the heaven list. After that, Zhou Xing introduced Jiang Xi to the others. Since they were all from the same village in Pak Sun province, they started chatting very quickly. After a round of chatting, Jiang Xi, Zhou Xing, and the others sat down at a table. Jiang Xi, don't be fooled by Seven Sisters' gentle and kind appearance. When she fights, she's very violent, especially in the past 2 years. Her ranking on the heaven list has always been in the top 3. Her actual combat power has long since reached Class A. The person who spoke was a burly man with a rough face. His name was Qian Hu. Like Zhou Xing, he was also a martial artist from the Northern Mountain Army. Qian Hu was not weak. He had reached Class C and was ranked 42nd on the heaven list. Hearing his words, Riverward glanced at Shuqiqi, who was sitting in the distance in surprise. The genius martial artist ranked second on the heaven list was indeed not simple. If Seven Sister is so strong, why didn't she break through to Class A? Zhou Xing asked. This was also the question Jiang Xi wanted to ask. It was reasonable to say that the top 10 on the heaven list all had Class A combat power, and could break through to Class A at any time. Why not? Because once you reach Class A, you will have to leave the heaven rank training camp. Compared to the outside world, there are experienced Class A martial artists as instructors here. There are also miraculous cultivation resources like Lingwan Road and Wondrous Rock Mountain. Who would want to leave? Of course, you have to endure for 5 years. Qian Hu laughed. Jiang Xi and Zhou Xing suddenly understood. At this time, Jiang Xi noticed that Yan Chao had been sitting next to them without saying anything. He was in low spirits. This was not normal. In Jiang Xi's impression, although Yan Chao was shy, he was very lively in front of acquaintances. Jiang Xi asked Zhou Xing what was going on. Zhou Xing jokingly scolded. This silly girl's head is too simple. In the morning, she was tricked by an old student of Shuntian Hall. She insisted on going to compare notes and gamble with others. In the end, she lost everything. Yan Chao lowered his head, somewhat at a loss. How much did you lose? Jiang Xi asked. 100 million, all of his assets. Jiang Xi frowned. Although it was disgusting, it was normal for the old students to suppress the new students through sparring and gambling. It was just that this kind of gambling match where the other party's entire fortune was taken away was too much. Yan Chao was a top-notch D-class martial artist, similar in strength to Wang Dalong of the Mad Dragon Squad. If he wanted to accumulate a net worth of 100 million, he would need at least 3 years. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. Let's teach him a lesson. Zhou Xing shook his head. Jiang Xi smiled. What he said was true. The dinner went on until 8 o'clock in the evening. Just as the atmosphere was lively, 3 uninvited guests suddenly appeared in the dining hall. Qin Feng? Jiang Xi frowned. One of the 3 uninvited guests was Qin Feng. They walked straight to Jiang Xi. Xiaoxing, what are you doing here? Qian Hu stepped forward and shouted at one of them. Xiaoxing was a fair-skinned youth. He did not care about Qian Hu's obstruction and locked his gaze on Jiang Xi. You are Jiang Xi? Xiaoxing smiled and looked very friendly. He heard this sentence again. Jiang Xi felt helpless in his heart and shook his head gently. No? Xiaoxing froze for a moment and looked at Qin Feng beside him. Qin Feng sneered. Jiang Xi, have you become so timid? You don't even dare to admit your name? Jiang Xi shook his head again. I'm shaking my head because your way of finding fault is too low class and too cliché. Fuck! They were all young people. Qin Feng, Xiaoxing, and another youth immediately became angry. At this time, Shu Qiqi and the others in the distance noticed the commotion and walked over. What do you want? Shu Qiqi asked softly. Greetings, Senior Shu. We want to find the newcomer, Junior Jiang Xi, to have a friendly exchange of pointers. Isn't it a tradition in the heaven rank training camp? Xiaoxing said with a smile that was neither servile nor overbearing. Qin Feng sneered at the side. Xiaoxing, you, a senior student ranked 40th on the heaven rank, want to exchange pointers with a newcomer? Have some shame! Qianhu laughed angrily. Xiaoxing still had a smile on his face as he gave a look to the other young man who was traveling with him. The youth then smiled at Jiang Xi. Junior Jiang Xi, my name is Wang Kai. I joined the heaven rank training camp last year. Are you interested in exchanging pointers with me? Of course, it's fine if you don't want to. Jiang Xi, don't exchange pointers with him. I was screwed over by this Wang Kai this morning. Yan Chao said anxiously, then glared at Wang Kai. Zhou Xing also said in a low voice. Jiang Xi, don't be rash. This Wang Kai is ranked 71st on the heaven rank. He's not weak, having the combat power of AC class. Qianhu also advised. Jiang Xi was calm. He nodded and was about to speak. At this time, Qin Feng suddenly said, If you don't dare to exchange pointers, admit that you're a coward. Xiaoxing and Wang Kai chuckled with a hint of mockery. The meaning was clear. The faces of the students from Paksun province changed. These words were too harsh. Martial artists were all about courage and courage. If Jiang Xi didn't accept the challenge, he would be labeled as a coward. This would affect his future training in the heaven rank training camp. For example, when it came to choosing a martial arts teacher, no instructor would be willing to accept a coward as a student. Oh? Qin Feng, may I ask if you've found a senior student to exchange pointers with? Why don't you find a senior from my side to exchange pointers with you? Jiang Xi looked calmly at Qin Feng. You! Qin Feng was speechless. Ha! Jiang Xi laughed, then turned his gaze to Wang Kai and said loudly, Isn't it just exchanging pointers? Why wouldn't I dare? How do you want to exchange pointers? Wang Kai looked inquiringly at Qin Feng and Xiaoxing. After getting an affirmative look, he said, Let's exchange pointers in the combat center. However, there must be a prize. According to the rules of the heaven rank training camp, the minimum prize is 100 million new moon dollars. 100 million, Jiang Xi, can you afford it? Qin Feng said with disdain. He had investigated Jiang Xi last time and heard that Jiang Xi came from a poor family and didn't have much money. Therefore, he deliberately said such words to embarrass Jiang Xi. Jiang Xi smiled and shook his head. Qin Feng's smile grew wider, and the mockery in his voice became more obvious. He was in a good mood. However, Jiang Xi continued to shake his head and said, How can 100 million be enough? After all, we are all students of the heaven rank training camp. Our status is high. If outsiders know that the prize for our exchange pointers is only 100 million, won't they laugh to death? If you asked me, let's make it 1 billion. 1 billion. Silence. Qin Feng's smile froze. Not only Qin Feng and the other two, but even the students from Paksun province, such as Shu Qiqi and Qianhu, were shocked by Jiang Xi's words. They were shocked that Jiang Xi could actually come up with so much money. Don't puff yourself up at your own cost. This money has to be taken out in advance and put into a third-party account for the exchange. Qin Feng was a little angry, thinking that Jiang Xi was playing with him. Sure, how do you do it? Jiang Xi looked indifferent. Chapter 96. I need one of you to submit a duel request in the martial arts section of the heaven-level training camp section of the Xiantian Forum. Then, just transfer the money in. Whoever wins will have the money transferred to their account, Shu Qiqi explained. Jiang Xi nodded and said to Wang Kai, You're Wang Kai, right? Didn't you want to challenge me? Go and apply. I'll accept the challenge. This attitude made Wang Kai feel like he had swallowed a dead fly. Who the hell wants to challenge you? I'm the veteran here. At the same time, he was in a difficult position because he couldn't take out that much money. Oh? You don't have enough money? Jiang Xi pretended to be surprised. Wang Kai remained silent. Don't worry about it. I'll pay for it. Qin Feng's face was gloomy. Wang Kai didn't feel embarrassed. He often did this. Then, he used his tactical communications watch to log into the Xiantian Forum and submitted a duel request in the heaven-level training camp section. On the other side, Jiang Xi quickly received the duel request. Without thinking, he clicked on the accept button. Please transfer the money to the duel. 1 billion new moon dollars. Jiang Xi and Wang Kai's tactical communications watches rang at the same time. Humph! Qin Feng transferred 1 billion new moon dollars for Wang Kai. Then, he looked at Jiang Xi provocatively. Your turn! Everyone's eyes were focused on Jiang Xi. Jiang Xi was very calm. He transferred 1 billion new moon dollars from his personal account. Although he had only entered the wilderness 3 times, he had earned a lot with his strength. Now, his account balance was close to 1 billion new moon dollars. That was why he had the confidence to propose such a high bet. Duel request successful. Duel time, New Moon Year 93, January 21st, 10 a.m. Duel location, Tianyuan Pavilion Combat Center. Then, Jiang Xi and Wang Kai both received the message. He really took out so much money. Everyone was surprised. Although these old students could take out so much money, they couldn't do it like Jiang Xi, who could take it out without batting an eyelid. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning, don't run away. Otherwise, we'll gladly accept this 1 billion. Qin Feng sneered and turned to leave with Xiao Xing and Wang Kai. Looking at their backs, Jiang Xi fell into deep thought. It was certain that Qin Feng was behind all these things, including Yan Chao being tricked in the morning. Qian Hu sent a copy of Wang Kai's detailed information to Jiang Xi later, Shu Qiqi instructed. She was the leader of the students in Pak Sun Province. Thank you. Jiang Xi thanked Shu Qiqi and Qian Hu. Shu Qiqi said seriously. Jiang Xi, you have to be careful of Qin Feng. If I remember correctly, he should be from the Shantian Prefecture's Qin family. He's not as simple as we think. As soon as she said that, many old students looked in the direction Qin Feng left in surprise. Although the Shantian Prefecture's Qin family was not well known in the martial arts world, as the geniuses of the heaven-level training camp, they had a wide range of contacts. They had heard of such a reclusive family. Mysterious and powerful. This was the evaluation of the reclusive family by many experts. Jiang Xi also nodded solemnly. Shu Qiqi, Qian Hu, and the others were only surprised that Jiang Xi could take out so much money, but they were not thinking about Jiang Xi's duel. In their opinion, since Jiang Xi could successfully pass the 3rd stage of Lingwan Road, his strength should not be too weak. As long as they had Wang Kai's detailed information, they could be sure that nothing would go wrong. After Jiang Xi returned to Tianyuan District's Villa 101, he chatted with Jiang Daoda for a while, and soon received the document from Qian Hu. After thanking Qian Hu again, Jiang Xi ended the call with Jiang Daoda. Come on, brother! Beat them up! Before ending the call, Jiang Daoda waved her fist to encourage Jiang Xi. Just wait and see! Jiang Xi entered the practice room and carefully studied Wang Kai's information. Even a lion needs to use all its strength to catch a rabbit. He was confident that he could win the duel, but he still had to be cautious. In the holographic projection, all the information about Wang Kai was recorded from his birth to the day before today. What a freak! What's senior brother Qian's specialty? He actually got such detailed information. Jiang Xi was speechless. He later learned that before Qian Hu came to the heaven-level training camp, he was a military martial artist in charge of intelligence in the Northern Mountain Army. After that, Jiang Xi spent 2 hours skimming through the information and memorizing the important parts. 21 years old, top-notch D-level martial artist, proficient in saber techniques, intermediate fusion of martial arts techniques. Possesses the combat power of a C-level martial artist, and has the record of defeating a C-level martial artist alone. Jiang Xi sat cross-legged, thinking carefully. None of the trainees in the heaven-level training camp are simple. This Wang Kai's strength is much stronger than Wang Dalong's. Moreover, Wang Kai is only 21 years old, while Wang Dalong is almost 40. There shouldn't be any problems. Jiang Xi confirmed in his mind, and then opened the experience panel. Level, Bonehone Level D, 650111000, Cultivation Method, 9 Elements Mantra Martial Arts Techniques, 9 Elements Swordsmanship, Fusion, 168130000, Wind Shadow Step, Refinement, 876110000, Force Exertion, 6, 22 Experience Points, 52977. His own strength was not a problem. Even without the Wind Shadow Step, he had the combat power of a B-level martial artist. Moreover, his biggest gain today was the 20,000 experience points gained from clearing Lingwan Road. It's a pity that the experience points gained from each step of Lingwan Road can only be gained once. Jiang Xi was still brooding over this. I can't be too greedy. The later steps will definitely give me a lot of experience points. I'll just have to work hard. Jiang Xi shook his head again. After all, it was an unexpected gain. Then, he took out the monster meat he had bought from the market in the camp town. After cooking for a while, he began to use the panel to improve his cultivation for the day. At the same time, the news about the bet between Jiang Xi and Wang Kai was quickly spreading in the heaven-level training camp section of the Xiantian forum. Someone was deliberately spreading the news. Usually, the heaven-level training camp had a lot of betting matches, but the stakes were usually very small, unlike this time, where the stakes were as high as 1 billion, which shocked many trainees who were paying attention to this bet. At the same time, what caught everyone's attention was that one of the bets was the most special person in the heaven-level training camp, Jiang Xi, the 101st on the heaven-level ranking. Jiang Xi was known as a special person in the outside world. Everyone wanted to see what was so special about him. The next morning, Jiang Xi woke up at 6 o'clock as usual. After washing up and eating breakfast, he went to the villa's balcony to cultivate. As long as he was not in the wilderness, he would do this every day. It had become a habit of his. It took him nearly 2 hours to complete 3 cycles of the 9 Elemental Heart Sutra, earning him 27 experience points. Although it was very little, it was still meat no matter how small a mosquito was. At 9 o'clock in the morning, his tactical communications watch began to vibrate non-stop. When he opened it, he saw that it was full of reminders and urging messages. Most of them were from his fellow villagers from Paksun province whom he had just met yesterday. Seeing that he had not gone to work so late, everyone was afraid that he had forgotten about the bet. Chapter 97. This book will be on the shelves after 12 noon tomorrow. After 48 days, it's finally going to be on the shelves. First of all, thank you to the friends who have been supporting this book until now. Congratulations, you've mastered the invulnerable body. As for when you'll master the invulnerable body, you'll have to finish this book first. Secondly, I want to thank my editor, Dirk Rai, for giving me so many recommendations for such a poisonous book. Especially when I was confused, he gave me confidence. I'm super touched. I know very well what is wrong with the front of this book. Sometimes, when I look back, I think, what kind of crap is this? So, I'm really grateful to the friends who have persisted until now. Thank you? To be honest, it's not very appropriate to be on the shelves at this time. Because I've been in a bad mood recently. Well, very bad. I've accumulated negative emotions for nearly a month. Yesterday, I was almost blown up by a few trolls. Since 2020, I've been unlucky. Not to mention losing my job, the unluckiest was this May. May 4th, my house was gone. I lost more than 200,000. May 14th, my uncle died of a myocardial infarction. I didn't even see him for the last time. Some readers should know that I used my phone to write during that time. May 20th, my girlfriend was gone. There were a lot of other messy things. In short, it was very annoying. And May happened to be the critical period for new book recommendations. Seeing that many readers urged me to update, I actually wanted to break out and improve my performance, but I couldn't. With so many things happening, I think it's a miracle that I didn't stop updating. Why didn't I stop updating? The reason is simple. Because I really love novels. I want to prove myself and write good novels. Constantly updating is the most basic quality. After saying so much, it's finally the most critical part. Please subscribe, I'm an old bookworm. I've been reading novels for almost 20 years. During that time, I've written a few books on and off. Of course, my results are nothing. Single-digit subscriptions, now, it's still a small failure, and small. After this book was approved, I set a goal for myself to get it on the shelves. Then, I'll have an average of more than 100 subscriptions by the end of the book. I'll be satisfied with this result. I've already reached the collection goal. Almost 4,000 subscriptions, which is something I didn't dare to think about before. Now that it was finally going to be released, could the target of over 100 orders be achieved in advance? Alright, I'm very thin-skinned. I hate borrowing money from others, and I hate it even more when others borrow money from me. Because subscriptions cost money. So, let's get down to business and talk about the update on the day of the release. As we all know, the first order of a new book is very important, so let's use the first order as the standard. 1. Regardless of the results, there will be a Chapter 5 update tomorrow at noon. 2. After more than 100 initial subscriptions, every additional 50 initial subscriptions will add one update. 3. If it's a reward, let's do what we can and set it higher. 10,000 rewards plus one more update. I don't think there will be one. P.S. The updating rule is valid for a long time, until the end of the book, but the second rule has to be changed to equal subscription, 4. As for the future updates, I'll make sure to update twice a day at least and 3 times a day on weekends. If I do well in the later stages, it's not a problem to update 3 times a day because I have to work to earn money. So, friends who have the means, please come and support us tomorrow. The initial subscription is only a few cents, so it should be fine. In addition, friends who read books on QQ, if you're not afraid of the trouble, you can come to Chidien to make an initial subscription, and then run back to read the book. Thank you in advance! Because the initial subscription is on Chidien, subscriptions from other places are not counted as initial subscriptions. Finally, friends who usually read pirated books, can you come and support us? The next Chidien app, it doesn't cost much to make an initial subscription. Finally, I'm nervous. Please give me confidence, everyone. Don't say so much. If the initial subscriptions don't exceed 100, then it'll be awkward. Also, don't stop with the recommendation tickets. Oh, I almost forgot, you can give monthly votes as soon as it's released. When the time comes, you must save 2 monthly votes. Everyone. Okay, good night. Chapter 98. What made Jiang Xi happy was that Qin Feng and Xiaoxing had also sent him messages urging him. Why was Xiaoxing so enthusiastic? This thought flashed through Jiang Xi's mind, but he didn't pay much attention to it. It was only at 9:45 a.m. that he left for Tianyuan Pavilion. Why would he go so early? To be stared at like a monkey? He already knew that the news of the duel had attracted a lot of attention. First floor of Tianyuan Pavilion, Combat Center. This was a large training field, and in the depths of the field, there was a simple and unadorned stone platform. The platform was about 3 meters tall, narrow at the top and wide at the bottom. In the Heaven Rank training camp, this platform was known as the combat arena. At this moment, many people had already gathered around the combat arena. They were all senior trainees of the heaven-ranked training camp. Qin Feng, Xiaoxing, and Wang Kai had also arrived early. There was one more person with them. It was an ordinary-looking young man, but his eyes were deep. It was obvious that this young man was in a dominant position in front of Qin Feng and the others. This was because Qin Feng and the others were very humble. They were not as arrogant as yesterday. On the other side, all the trainees from Pak Sun Province were present. None of them were absent. Ma Yu, it's just an ordinary duel. Are you here to join in the fun? Shu Qiqi smiled at the young man. Aren't you here too? Ma Yu smiled. After a simple conversation, the two of them stopped talking. Through this conversation, they could roughly guess the purpose of each other's visit. 9:55 a.m. Is that brat still coming or not? I rushed back from the wastelands overnight just to watch this duel. One of the older students shouted. Could it be that he's scared? Someone guessed. If that's the case, then he's generous enough to give out 1 billion new moon dollars. Next time, I'll find him for a duel too. Someone mocked. Let's go back to training. Qin Feng's eyes were filled with mockery and ridicule. He was in a good mood. If Riverward really didn't come, then he would be labeled as a coward and a coward. One could imagine how difficult it would be for Jiang Xi to raise his head in the heaven-level training camp in the future. Xiao Xing frowned slightly. No one knew what he was thinking. Ma Yu remained calm and collected, as if nothing could affect him. As for Wang Kai, who had a bet with Jiang Xi, he also looked indifferent. He didn't care if Jiang Xi came or not. He was confident that he would win. If he didn't come, he would be earning money for nothing. On the other side, Shu Qiqi and Qian Hu looked at each other. That shouldn't be the case. Did Jiang Xi really run away? Zhou Xing and Yan Chao looked worriedly in the direction of Tianyuan Pavilion's entrance. They did not see Jiang Xi. 9:58 a.m. Just as someone was about to leave impatiently, a figure appeared at the entrance of Tianyuan Pavilion under the sunlight. Jiang Xi is here! Damn, he really knows how to act! Some of the older trainees almost cursed. Faced with so many gazes, Jiang Xi's expression was natural. He walked steadily to the arena. He already knew that the bet would be held in the arena. Jiang Xi was very surprised by this. The arena was similar to Lingwan Road. When one was on it, one's consciousness would enter an illusion. Then, both parties would fight in the illusion. They could attack without worry and not hurt their bodies in the real world. When Jiang Xi saw the arena's simple stone pillars, he couldn't help but wonder if the arena and Lingwan Road came from the same place. Sensing the angry gazes, Jiang Xi was calm. He looked at Qin Feng and the others. All right, stop dawdling. Let's start. Fuck! The anger of Qin Feng and the others immediately rose. Who's dawdling? Come on, Jiang Xi! Zhou Xing shouted. Teach that old bastard a lesson! Yan Chao was angry. He had been tricked by Wang Kai. Riverward smiled as he waved his hand confidently. Exerting force with his feet, he leaped up and lightly landed on the arena. The arena had a radius of 1 meter. It was more than enough to accommodate 2 people. Arrogant! Wang Kai was unhappy with Jiang Xi's confident attitude. He also jumped onto the arena and stared coldly at Jiang Xi. A new trainee should be honest, humble, and low-key. Showing such a confident attitude, it was obvious that he didn't take him seriously. He decided to take it seriously and teach this arrogant new trainee a lesson. 10 a.m. sharp. Both of them closed their eyes at the same time. Suddenly, they felt the world spinning. When they opened their eyes again, they were both in an illusion. Riverward quickly observed his surroundings. This was a very large martial arts arena. It was like a martial arts arena that had been magnified 100 times. At this moment, he was 100 meters away from Wang Kai. The illusion of the battle arena seems to be specially used for sparring. Jiang Xi still had time to think about these questions. Please choose your weapon or equipment. A clear female voice sounded in the illusion space. Then, many kinds of weapons appeared in front of their eyes. The voice is the same as the one in the illusion space of Lingwan Road. It seems that the arena and Lingwan Road are from the same place. Jiang Xi confirmed his guess. At the same time, he also chose the long sword he used when he challenged Lingwan Road. Wang Kai also chose a long sword similar to the tiger head sword. I only need 3 slashes to kill you! Wang Kai pointed his sword at Jiang Xi. He looked arrogant as if he was looking down on the world. Oh? That's amazing! Jiang Xi pretended to be surprised. Humph! A minute later, a voice echoed in the illusion space. Let the battle begin! Go to hell! Wang Kai shouted loudly. He stomped on the ground and leaped high into the air. His long saber carried a strong wind as it whistled through the air and slashed towards riverward. With his speed, he could cross the distance of 100 meters in less than a second. However, Jiang Xi was unmoved. He was very calm. When the strong wind came, Jiang Xi's figure suddenly became graceful. He held his long sword horizontally. In an instant the sword swept out. Clang! The sword and the sword collided. Jiang Xi and Wang Kai took half a step back at the same time. What? Wang Kai was very surprised. He used all his strength to attack. A new student actually showed the same strength as him. No, it should be said that Jiang Xi was stronger than him. Because he used the height of his jump to slash down. And Jiang Xi didn't use any force. He just used his sword casually. Impossible! Wang Kai continued to move forward and suddenly slashed dozens of times. Clang! Clang! But they were all blocked by Jiang Xi. 33 slashes. Jiang Xi kindly reminded. Go to hell! Go to hell! Wang Kai flew into a rage and slashed out again. Swish! However, the saber missed its target. Poochie! But there was a soft sound. A sharp pain appeared in his chest. What a fast sword! Wang Kai lowered his head in disbelief. He saw that Jiang Xi's sword had pierced his heart. The battle is over. Jiang Xi wins. In front of the arena, many people were guessing who would win or how long the battle would take. The final guess was one-sided. Most people thought that Wang Kai would win. The old students all knew that after training in the heaven-level training camp for a period of time, their strength would be improved to a certain extent. Wang Kai was an old student ranked 71st on the heaven list. His strength had been tested by time, and he had rich combat experience. And Jiang Xi was only a new student who had just joined the heaven-level training camp for a day. Comparing the two, although they were both D-class, Jiang Xi was definitely much weaker. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.